Thank you, thank you. Excited to be here this evening. Get some gathering level.
I just wish it had way more. All right, let's see here. Cool. Oh, it's playing an ad. Oh, it's not a long ad. I'll support the stream. That's the difference between us on Twitch and us on...
What's up, Philip? What's up, Kai?
Hey, Kai. Hey, Philip.
How are you, Seth?
Here, Mitch, on the YouTube.
Are you gonna miss the crystal thingy if you don't power level?
The F15 event is level 50.
Level 50. Okay.
Like it is level 50.
But you're close. 40. You'll make it. I believe in you. Oh, I'm doing great. What's up, Chris? To tell me, how are you?
Hey, Sadie.
Right.
Sadie says he can hear me just fine on Twitch. Just let me know if you might want to repeat that in case they can't.
All right. Yeah, the 15 crossover event should be pretty achievable to everybody already in the game, and everybody knew kind of they're either level 50 or they're not. I don't know. Do you think they'll bring it back, or is it really going to be limited time? Some things they just leave in the game forever.
Bring it back. They're gonna charge you for what?
They're just gonna lock it in the Mog station.
Yeah, on it because there's a sense of like, hey, I was there, man. You know, I was sub during this period of time, and I got it. I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind it, like rotation. You know, where there's have so many events they've made. Them coming back, right? So then it just is a matter of patience.
What?
Like, yeah, you can wait till the Dragon Quest Dragon Quest event comes back, or you know, like, yeah, no.
That retainer
What's chat thing?
400 grand on it. Hopefully you guys can hear Brian. They said it could be switched back on.
Can hear me.
Yeah, the question is, if they switch it back on, will it be like, oh, this is the 2021 version, and it's got a different set of things behind it. So if you want the original set of things, we'll see you over on the log station. Yeah, that's a Discord thing. If he's cutting out, you're cutting out a little for me, Brian. I do not have 200k MGP, but I'm at like 160 or 170, I think.
So make sure you hit up any MGP things. They were saying it's like 2,050 or 2,000.
I'm at 180. It's higher than I thought it was.
I've got 3 bars on Discord voice, just FYI.
Yeah, you sound good right now. You were cutting out earlier.
Weird. I wonder if it's maybe... Let me look at my voice settings.
I don't know.
Hello. Gotta lower that a little bit.
Yeah, I could do my Golden Saucer log tonight. That'd be fine. The Yokai Watch thing comes back around, and I don't know where the 200k number comes from, Jared. But it's you're cutting out just a bit again. That's weird.
No.
But Jared, the 200k number's been thrown around a lot, so I don't know if that's just speculation that's taken a life of its own. I can pull up Discord and see if it's something on my end.
Yeah, because it's gotten me fully...
I showed 3 bars. That's the only metric that they show me, right? Are there any other metrics?
On the other.
Voice and video. That's all inputs.
Let me know if it keeps happening.
Could you set your voice activity even lower? Like, to really just let me hear all natural?
Yeah, you know, you probably could hear me moving my chair now.
Okay. Huh. I don't know. It was data mined? Oh, thanks, Kai. Yeah, I kind of wondered. I just know that once it got thrown around, like, that seems to be the official number.
Yeah.
I'm at 181.
Like
That's not a lot.
Yeah, I'm like in 150s, something like that. So I'm gonna go and make sure I hit that. And Judge Preston, welcome to the workforce. Thanks for hitting that follow button over on Twitch.
Come on, mini Cactpot. Oh.
Alright.
This could be our winner. Oh, and it's 720. Well, that's not bad. 720's up there in the payouts, but when you see a 3 and a 1, you're really hoping for that too.
Yeah. Oh man, oh man.
Oh, there's no winners on this card. Nothing. Nothing of value, really. 36.
Dude, Philip, thank you so much. What shirt did you get? Oh, and we're targeting May, Philip, for the meetup.
I'm glad you like it, Philip.
And we're looking at Nerdvana in Frisco. So we're gonna go check that out here after Easter and confirm. It's not gonna be like an event, but it's definitely gonna be like, let's get together, let's play some video games, and let's have some drinks.
Let's jerk my headphones off. Got the 10,000. Yes.
Woot.
What's up, Tranquil?
Nice.
Oh. All right.
Tranquil and Safi, thanks for hitting that sub button over on Twitch with that Twitch Prime sub. 8 months.
My wife loves our shirts and says next time I order some for myself that she wants one. It's so soft and it's holding up so well.
I specifically set the quality to the highest option they had, and then we set our margin on it incredibly low. So I think we might only, like, because I didn't want the shirts to be ridiculously expensive. It was like, okay, cool. I think we might make $2 a shirt, which is fine by me. It's more about like, thank you. rock the shirt, buddy.
All right. Where's that put me for the week? That puts me at 190 something, right? Okay, so I should try to make 8,000 MGP tonight. That should be my first goal. If I just need to get to 200, we are on Sargatanas.
The Golden Saucer event, in around this time, and MGP rewards are increased, and so that could end up being very, very handy.
The Leap of Faith is now going on in the round square. You know, I've honestly never tried the Mahjong. Do I get MGP for that?
I don't think so.
They didn't put anything in there. I played a bunch of Mahjong in my life. I just didn't. Let's see, Gold Saucer.
Right.
Complete 3 minigames. Chocobo Races, Triple Triad, Lords of Verminion. I do not see anything tied to...
Together, kind of, because, like, we thought, like, hey, what would be fun is, like, you like Final Fantasy? Are you in North Texas? So we're gonna be, we're hanging out with, Paul from the Gather Together podcast, so Rubicon, and we were all talking, and it's like, yeah, let's, like, what could be fun that ideally be kind of hopefully low stress, low key, and we were like, well, let's, fun, and we liked it. It's got lots of video games, it's got a really cool bar, and we were looking at like what day would work, and so Paul and I are gonna go check it out, and Chris, you're welcome to come and hang out.
Thanks for dropping by, Phil.
For a drink. I just was like, he's like, you want to go like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I can't drink until after Easter's over, until Easter.
I could still drag it even though they're only letting me choose the one card. All right. Do that.
Turn these in. Temple. Oh my gosh, yeah. When are you going to be in
What's
Temple,
up,
Mike? It's Frisco, so they have Nerdvana in Frisco. We're gonna go check it out and see if it actually will work. We've talked to management, and they're amicable, but it's not like we can rent out the place. Like, thankfully, because I was like, what? People can come, they can drink. You can play games.
I just picked this guy because I think I can beat him pretty
food I
regularly.
had is really good. I'm a forward to whoever.
Alright. I think putting this guy right here makes sense. Because we know he's going to cap him, so we might as well just like let him cap him.
Yeah.
And then put it somewhere I can actually defend. Since they're going to be played in order.
Finish Goldsmith.
Nice.
It's very nice. Bought most of the the item that I had to turn in. 700 gil, and I get 12 to 1400 gil a turn in. So
a card.
It's like, and how do you level and profit at the same time? You let somebody sell this stuff really cheaply. Tried the tower climb.
Will they play the same every time? Like if I play here, like can I just literally repeat my movements? Since order? Because since it's order, they have to play their cards the same way. So he would play in the top left? No, he didn't. Intriguing. Yes. I think I should have done it top right, actually. But still my game. Alright, 6 hours until reset? Oh. I always think it's later than that. Maybe not. Cool. You excited? Since you're already counting it down.
Game night, so we're just hanging out on voice chat, guys.
Oh, do I have to do it in the battle?
What tonight is about.
Well, Jared, I've been doing this wrong then. I can go do the battle after this. Let me read the log after this. That's like an instant queue. I just walked up to the first guy. You can tell how often I clear my challenge log of triple triad.
What are you gonna? Oh, for MGP.
Yeah. I just want to go ahead and get over 200k. Alright. Let's see. Play, win. Oh no, play in the battle hall. Play 5 in the battle hall. And win 3 times in the battle hall. Alright. Duty Finder.
If you've never been, just don't like every word, and I think that ends up being enjoyable for everybody. But yeah, when we say open, we mean it. Most of the time, I usually do stream with open chat, and we end up just usually doing member chat, just more rarely. So check out the Discord server, jump into voice. Have to add a specific.
Can I beat this guy?
I think it's all the state of your mind, Chris.
It's, yeah. Triple Triad is a state of mind. It has nothing to do with the cards. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's got.
This is where everybody's at.
Okay, so I have to play this one next.
In one.
Which is fine. Hello, hello.
Hey guys. So
Hello.
I wanted to... Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're very quiet.
Oh, sorry. Here, let me turn it up.
Hey, Kai.
Hey.
Discord is having a little bit of a weird issue, but either way.
Yeah. So let me just... if I can just give you guys a couple of quick tips, maybe that'll help. Right now, for a couple more hours, it's up for this week, is the...
Gotta turn them up.
Fashion report. And
the fashion report?
This week's, you can literally go to any of the 3 starting cities and buy like level 9 gatherer's pants, the like whatever chassis, and like level, I think it's like 19 gatherer boots. I can post a link to show you exactly which ones they are, but you can spend a grand total of about 1,600 gil, 70,000 MGP. With more so with the ticket squadron ticket. If you don't use a squadron ticket, you should definitely put on for your FC the MGP 10% bonus. Also, if you guys were to go in right now and just do 5 matches with each other on Lords of Vermilion, even if you don't, you know, regularly, even if it's just like, all right, we're just gonna spaz out and attack this shit, or stuff, that's like 29,000 MGP. What you want to do for sure, you want to get in the habit of every week, you want to, when you start to do your challenge log for the triple triad, which I see Christy's working on now, you first sign up for the tournament, and then you do 20 matches versus NPCs if you don't really care about the tournament, if you don't want to put any time and effort on it, just like knock it out in 10 minutes. You do 20 matches against against those guys. That'll give you all of your regular triad challenge log. It'll give you your battle hall triad log. And it'll give you an addition.
So it's like I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hold on, let me speak up even more. Yeah. So if you do the
Robinson. That's better.
If you do the when you do your challenge log, sign up for the tournament. Go inside the battle hall event, because just signing up for the tournament, even if you just knock it out real quick versus the guys, the automated guys, because you don't care about the tournament, you'll still get like an extra 60 or 70,000 MGP for that, plus free cards which you can sell back or use.
I did not know that.
Thanks, man.
It takes you no time.
We talking about
how to,
and then 20, 40, and 60 on the hour, you want to pop out of there and look to see what gate is up, because participating in 5 gates is a thing, and winning 3 gates is a thing, which will give you a bunch more. Between doing the tournaments, and I literally put in about, maybe I would say 2 hours a week on Gold Saucer altogether, and I mean, just that's 5. It's like an hour and a half one day of the week, and then the rest of the week is like 5 minutes a day. You go in, you do your scratch offs, and you do a couple gates, and you get out. I get about 380,000 MGP a week.
That's a lot. What do you do with all that MGP? You just bank it?
So I've bought everything that they have. I've bought every mount, everything, everything. And now I'm up over 6.5 mil. My plan is when I get to 10 mil, I'm going to just stop doing Gold Saucer, because I've got like 2 expansions worth of money banked.
Yeah, pretty much. If you guys sitting on 10 mil, that's incredible.
That's
a ridiculous saying he's got 3 more Vermilion to go. Yeah,
so for Lords of Vermilion, the other thing is, there's things that are tied. They're like, I'm collecting all the minions, and there's minions that are tied to, there's like the RP battle. So in the RP battle, you have to win 40 matches. And so if you just go in and do your 40 matches every day, every day. 5 matches every, if you do 5 matches every week,
that's brutal.
to get you the challenge log. Those 5 matches, and just do it with a friend and have fun with it. Who cares who wins?
Yeah.
You're going to end up getting that little minion. That's part of the reward for that. And whenever there's a tournament up, I join the tournament. Even if I do 1 match and lose, I'll get like 60 grand for 1 match and lost, because nobody does it.
Yeah.
So like, you can do 1 match, lose, get your 10 points, and you're in 5th place. Congratulations, you just got 70 grand, whatever. And with that, with your squadrons, you send them out to get that 10% coupons, and the level 50 ones will give you 10 of them. So I've got like 400 of those 10% coupons. I pop one of those every day when I go and do my scratch offs.
Nice.
And I just have it on my timer that it's like every day when I log in, I've got my rotation. My retainers all come back at the same time. My retainers, I do my squadron, I collect my map, I go to Gold Saucer and I get my scratch offs, and then I'm done with my chores. I can play.
I'm trying to remember. Is the fashion report supposed? Can you still do the fashion report from last week?
You can do it until
That's
literally it
60,000
resets.
right there.
It resets in 5 hours. And if right now, if you go to any major town and buy the right pants and boots for a grand total of about 1,500 gil, you will get 70 grand MGP right now and be able to get it again tomorrow. Well, be able to get
what's
it.
What's the pants and boots?
Friday.
Sure, let me pull it up for you right now. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'm gonna try this out because I'm at 149,000.
The pants are called the Hempen Chassis. They're the gather pants that are like level 9, I think. Hempen Chassis. And then any of the thigh boots, so amateurs, initiates, foreskin, raptor skin, any of those vintage, mildewed, any of those thigh boots for the feet. So the amateurs is going to be the cheapest.
Hempen Chaussets. People have got on 20 grand now. Level 5, like that's vendored, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just
it's
vendor, guys.
It's in the
It's
tooltip.
vendor.
Shop
it's
selling price 94. Does it just say what shop?
Any of them, any of the major.
Any
So
of the
in Ul'dah, since you're in the Gold Saucer now, teleport to Ul'dah or take the plane to Ul'dah, and then go to the Sapphire Exchange and look at the guy that does the Gatherer and Battle class clothing.
Okay.
That just sells the trash. He sells that for 90 gil, 94,
Heck yeah,
something
man.
like that.
Yeah, it's like people forget about the fashion report, and it's like that's when everyone was like, "How do I get like 200,000 in a couple of hours, like to a couple of days?" Like, I mean, the event's been on for a month. Am I right? A month?
So I see Chris is in Gridana. You want to go to the Leatherworkers teleport, and then it's
Okay.
right there.
I'm gonna do my squadron real quick.
And Kozart and Tay Beat, welcome to the workforce.
I'm at over 200 right now, but I'm intrigued
well,
to
you
make
want
more.
So it's going to be 200 for the car, it's 40 for the hair, it's 20 for the card, and then the clothes you get for free from the actual event.
Yeah, it's like 250, 260 altogether. I mean, it's so easy. I think I'm sitting on 300, and all I've done is every week I've just done my fashion report. That's 60, 70K a week.
This guy doesn't have it.
For what? What are you looking for, Bryn?
The Hempted Cossacks or whatever it's called.
The Chassis? Let me pull it up for you. Hold on.
It's near the it's the
Maybe Disciple of Magic.
Okay, so
the vendors, no, it's a Gatherer pants. The pants are sold by
Hand to Land.
Yep, Hand and Land, and the guy's name is Walter. It's the Hand and Land gear.
Got one, and then what were the boots that I need?
Hold on one second, I'm gonna get you the exact.
Dude, thank you, man.
No problem.
All right. Hello. On my way.
Hey, what's up, dude?
On my way to Leatherworker Town here.
The cheapest boots are called the Amateur Thigh Boots, and you can buy those for, hold on one second, Amateur Thigh Boots.
Buy a couple of these and put them up for sale.
I see Adam was on.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so Amateur Thigh Boots are sold by so Gwalter, same guy, he sells them for 288 gil. They're land gear, and they're
crossover event will be 50.
They're level 10 land gear. So yeah, so for a grand, I'm sorry, I was off. If for a grand total of 400 gil, you get over 70,000 MGP. The big thing is, guys, before you go there and spend all night screwing around in the Gold Saucer, either pop a ticket or put up the 10% MGP buff, so you can maximize your profits.
I do not have.
I don't have the FC buff to pop, but what
I can do.
I don't even
I'm
have
in Gridania. I could buy it.
So sorry, who do you say sell the amateur boots?
So the same guy, Gwalter. Gwalter. It's the Disciple of Hand Land gear. It's 288 gil for the amateur thigh boots.
All right.
What level are those?
They are level 10.
There we go. I was in the wrong category.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So like I say, you spend 288 gil and 92 gil, so a grand total of under 400 gil, and it's without any buffs. That right there is over 60,000 MGP. But if you pop a ticket, or if you have the FC buff, you can get it up to a total of 80,000 MGP just for that. and that's doing no work
And then
of any kind.
Did you guys say there was one here in Gridania at the Leatherworker?
Yes, there are. Let me give it for you.
Guild
The Leatherworker
Receptionist?
guy is... Hold on. He is in Gridania. His name is...
I assume he's in
What? That's Hurst Mill, right? No, wait. Rosewood Stalls. So his name is
I will say,
Domiatine.
though,
So it's Domitine, and he's the purchase hand and land category, and he's in the Rosewood Stalls.
Should be in the Rosewood Stalls.
14.3, 9.8.
Ebony Stalls. Rosewood Stalls must be south. Rosewood Stalls. Tool supplier, material melder. Domitine. Hello.
There you go. He sells both the amateur thigh boots, level 10, hand land feet, and he also sells the hempen chassis level 5 pants.
Hempen chassis, level 15 pant. Oh no,
Level 5 pants, hand
hempen
land
bottoms.
Gear. Yep, hempen chassis. Level 5 hand land gear. That's made for crafters. The pants, the boots are for gatherers, but they're both all classes.
That. I see hempen bottoms.
Go back. I think you're in Magic. Go back and choose hand land.
Hand land.
Level and then level 1 to 10.
Oh, 1 to 9. All right. I was up too high.
There you go.
Hempen chassis. Okay.
There you go.
And then I needed. What'd you say the second item was?
Level 10 was the amateur thigh boots. Same guys and same category. Hand land, but level 10.
Problems with Discord.
Thigh boots. Amateur thigh boots.
There you go. Congrats,
All
guys.
right. So where is this? What hall is this?
The gold saucer guy?
Yeah, we're like.
So he literally is in the one with the big cactus in there. The one that there's 2 cliffhangers. The one where you run up a hill and the other where you run around the ledge. He's on the ledge one.
I'm gonna go buy the buff if you want it, Brian.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. I've never done.
I'm already injured on you.
It'll turn your MGP return on this from being like 60,000 to being like 67,000. It gives you an extra 10%.
Okay.
For jackpot jackpot 2.
I will say the this week's fashion report was a joke.
Well,
I've done
they did that on purpose to help out newer players who are trying.
I've done it, but I've never actually like done it. Like I've gone and just like talked to the guy and taken the like, here's what I'm wearing, you deal with it, and you get something for it. It's just not very much. It's like 10K or something.
Yeah. For new players, Mione every week does a video and he links to the Reddit, and either whether you prefer, some people are visual that they prefer seeing the video, and because he like runs around to the people and he's like, this guy right here, and you see the guy. For some people like myself, you just click on the Reddit link and skip the vid. But like you, whatever way you're more comfortable with it, his video has a link to the Discord or to the Reddit, so you can do either one. It takes me approximately 5 minutes a week, and I always end up. Now, the first time, if you're interested...
So you attack Mass Rose?
Yes. You talk to him, and you'll choose the option which says present yourself for judging. Make sure you're wearing the boots and the pants. And you want to make sure, it doesn't matter what they are, but you want to make sure that you're wearing something in every slot. So for myself, I don't like wearing earrings or rings or any of that, and I have it set to, my stuff set to Emperor's New. Don't have any Emperor's New. It doesn't matter how ugly it is. Make sure you have visible earrings, rings, everything, and you'll get the full credit.
Like I mean, I remember one week.
Oh, I do have to have something on, so I don't just wear those 2 items.
Yeah, you have to just have clothes, any kind of clothes in the other ones. I don't know if it still does. I think they nerfed it, but it used to take off points. It used to deduct points if you didn't have all your slots filled. It
does deduct points.
Yeah.
I thought I had to fill the bar myself. I was like, what?
Your target here, gentlemen, is just to get over 80. Once you get over
I got
80,
11,000.
You'll go another one. You'll get the 11, and then you'll get what was your
55.
score? Yep. So there's
86.
60. So there was 66,000. Oh, as soon as you get over 80, you get the
another
full
11,000.
cash reward. That's a weird glitch. I don't think it gives you another 11. It just gives you the 55 and then the 11.5. It'll tell you. It shows up twice, but I don't think you actually get it twice. I don't pay attention.
That put me over 2,000, 200,000.
It's in the event square, right?
Thank you.
Yes, it is an event square. Yeah, that's the square, event square.
Yeah.
So like I said, so it's now 2205. If you open up your map, I don't know if there may be an event up that would be like any of them other than the stage ones would still be up for another 2 or 3 minutes, and you can get your gates up.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, Isabel? Hey, Crypto Master, how y'all doing tonight? Thank you guys so much for the 11 thumbs up, by the way. Let's see here.
What kind of things are you looking to change?
There we go.
Sorry, what's up, Para?
Saying what the crypto.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry.
I'm gonna turn on my music though.
You really hope it changes things? What do you? Yeah. So what are you hoping it changes? Let's see.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the game's in a really good spot right now, personally.
I'm glad you're liking it. Like, I think when I look at it, like from a content and what it does well, it does it really well. I'm wondering if they're going to take it and change it up in any way. And it's not that they need to, because there's a risk when it comes to change. So instead of change, like, I wonder if they're going to add more additions. And some of the stuff they're kind of hinting at sounds like it, but I think there's definitely for somebody like myself who's been playing for 9 years, it's like, okay, like, are we going to get this system or this system? And yeah, like, if is there any kind of like, what do you like? What's your favorite kind of content and stuff like that they put in right now?
Me personally, I can't even say. Like, I've been playing this game since basically SCOB. So whenever that was recent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is.
I'm trying to think. SCOB. 1 second.
Second coil.
Second coil. Got it. So you came in. Did you come in with 2.0?
Yeah, well, 2.0 was current, and then some healers, some days. Sorry.
Are you putting content right now? No, that's fine.
Yeah, I was trying to get a couple of my dailies done. This is the first time I've been able to get on all day. But anyways, I don't know. There's a lot of things just in this expansion that I've just been really happy with. I do hope they do something about like this TP nonsense, because
it's gonna be neat to see what happens. I think that it could signal not like massive they're not gonna do anything massively overhauling, but like, I have not at this point run into TP issues in the game, because there's just I don't know, like, it seemed like an earlier problem, like whenever you do low level stuff, like I can see how somebody can run out of TP, but there's so many ways to also recover it and manage it. I've never I'm like, oh, TP is only a thing whenever, if you die, you have to kind of wait a little bit to get back up.
But even then, there's so many different ways to regain your TP that really quick as a melee that it's really just non-existent. I think they really fixed it back when 3.0 came out.
And then with that, like, they added in kind of like Final Fantasy XI's TP system with every job, kind of having this, different gauge that fills up, and then you do different things with it. So it's like, okay, well, we have that. Like, what is it? What really is it serving? And if it's all MP based, that's going to be interesting. Kai, you're going to say something?
No, I don't think that they're removing TP. You're saying like, oh, it seems dumb they're removing the TP thing. TP's fine. I don't see. I think that they're making that change for a different reason that you're not seeing yet. I think you're going to see in May when they do the role changes, when they do the live letter that explains how all of the classes are changing. I think you're going to see TP is going to go away. They say, well, it's going to just be MP. I don't think it's even going to be MP. I think they're going to change and call it maybe AP or whatever, and then action point, and then it's going to be for casters. It'll be sort of MP traditional, and for non-casters, for melee of any kind, it'll be, or range or whatever, it'll be a different thing. But I think that it's not about fixing a perceived deficit with that system. It's more about them trying to do balance changes between roles. And you're going to see stuff where it's like right now, a monk's goad is only good when he's paired with melees that use TP. Whereas if a monk's goad, if you just make one letter change from TP to AP, and now that's action points, that could be useful to casters. And you're going to see some weird changes. You're going to see some changes between like the piercing debuff guys and the slashing debuff guys and all that stuff. I think you're going to see a lot get pulled out of summoner, or not summoner, sorry, bard, machinist, and the new dancer. You're going to see them, I think, changed a lot to be more buffer roles, and you're going to see a lot of different party compositions that treat the holy trinity of tank, healer, DPS is going to now be, I think, tank, healer, DPS, and then parentheses or possible buffer. And you could have situations where their direct output of damage is well lower, but they do more to buff all of the like party and utility. And then your choice would be, that could be an interesting thing, because that could even make samurais or guys, or samurais or black mages who are more the greedy DPS, that could make them more powerful when you pair them with a hardcore buffer. If it changes their product by enough, that percentage of buff could make it huge.
Where do I turn this?
Yeah, but the
where do I turn this fashion report in? I just swore it was needed.
The redolent rose guy right there in that area you're in. If you look on the map, there's an indicator. There's an indicator.
There is a problem with them removing like the merger of TP and MP.
Wait, real quick. We're just for 1 second. Let me help Chris out, because Chris, I can see you have an unlock quest. You have to unlock that fashion report to get it started, bud.
I swear. I swear
if you
I've
go
done
back,
that.
Go back to the area. I saw an unlock bar. See that top left, like on the cactus right there on your map. Oh, that is the Mahjong. My bad.
Yeah.
Well, then if you go around that area, look for the big fat guy with the mask, the redolent rose dude.
Should be
right there. That you're coming close. Wait, no. Sorry.
It's like he needs to be in the cactus room.
Yes, he's in that. He's in those. You're in the stage room. You're in the wrong room.
Behind. I'm behind on the stream.
You're in the stage room. You need to go to the cactus room.
All right.
Okay. There is a problem with the merger of the MPTP. Yes, it's going to help, like, say, my black mage. I don't use TP. I don't need to see TP. Bards, they use TP and MP. Dark Knights use TP and MP.
But so little jobs actually did. Like what is MP worth on a warrior? You know, it's just this weird thing. You know,
well, that's why like they can really put in some, like the different gauges for every class. They really need to make use of those more, I think, because for some classes they're just kind of there and they don't really. I mean, they have a role, but they don't have a role, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not crucial enough towards that class.
What I'm thinking,
because it's just a lily, so they don't do anything, and that's it. And it's just lilies that you get 1, 2, 3, and you use it, or something like that. And it kind of.
Valen is asking, saying, "Do I have a moment for a heavy question?" Absolutely, go for it.
Can you read that question out loud?
Oh, I will read it out loud when it's asked, unless it's like really heavy.
Hey guys, I'm gonna drop. I just wanted to real quick say that thing about the MGP stuff, but I'll go back to watching the video. See you around.
Thanks for coming in, and thanks for the tips about MGP, man. That really helped me out.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Thank you. And I mean, what I think is going to happen with like the TP-MP is maybe if it's a job that uses TP, it'll just show TP and won't show MP, and then if it's like a black mage or something, it'll just show MP.
If it's context sensitive, that makes sense. You know, like he was saying, if they called it AP, it's like, okay, that, you know, it really is kind of like, here's your whatever, you know.
But the only way to really make those gauges really worthwhile is to make, like, for example, healers, their spells cast or cost so much more than what they do already, and that's gonna be really harmful to healers big time.
Well, you can't apply like how the battle system and spells and everything costs now, because it's like, you know, that's all.
Where it gets interesting is the cross buffs and the potions and things like that, where you start to have something that is basically kind of like a shared resource. So when you have something, that's where I'm excited to see kind of what they choose to do with it, because when you have somebody that like, oh, I recover TP, it's like, well, right now that would only be useful to certain classes, but if you're recovering this AP or whatever, all of a sudden it's like, okay, in a progression fight you might use that on a healer, and otherwise you might be using it on DPS, if it's a resource that people struggle to keep around.
But even
yeah,
then,
I mean,
you shouldn't be struggling though. There's so many things out there now that to basically make you easy mode for you not to struggle, that it shouldn't be an issue unless you die. Which
that's the death penalty that they have in the game right now. It's you get a little bit of weakness and then you have to kind of wait to have it recover, etc.
I guess. I mean,
and it gives them a chance to, like Chris is saying, like reduce the MP gain, and so you could make something a more limited resource.
Okay, he asked a question, but he's going to elaborate, and it's not like heavy where I'm afraid to say it out loud. So,
what's up, Helter?
Hey, Helter. Let's see here. All right.
There we go.
A couple days off from playing tank has me a little rusty.
Let me see what I need to be crafting on armor for my leaves here.
Mahjong unlocked.
I still need to get those all upgraded to max for expansion.
So is there's nothing MGP wise for playing Mahjong?
I don't think so. I think it's just there for fun.
I haven't even played that game yet.
I'm gonna sit down and play a game.
I do believe there is a challenge log for Mojang.
I didn't see one, but
you have to have unlocked it first.
Oh, okay.
I'm more of the raider type, so I'm hoping they add more things for raiding, like more trials and.
I do not remember how to play this in multiplayer.
Other stuff to do for that. That would be cool. Or at least give more and more often. Like, I was happy when they finally decided to start making dungeons a little bit more difficult.
Well, dungeons, like, if you ever go and run them at, like, the minimum eye level, like, they are challenging. Less room for mistake. The only problem is that there's no reason to do that other than, I guess, the personal challenge. Time.
I just wanted to play one game. I got it unlocked.
Yeah, but the earlier dungeons, they didn't really have a whole lot of mechanics to them, especially like the leveling ones. The first like real challenging dungeon you run into back in 2.0 was DD, which wasn't really that bad, and then you had AV, which everybody hated.
All right,
everyone still hates AV.
I don't mind AV as much. It's just super long, and you get people who don't know what they're doing in it, so they want to pull every single thing in that first room, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah,
like,
I think
skip
that
half
makes
of this
sense.
room, guys. I just want to get to the end. The XP is not useful.
Well, and that's what I want to see. I want to see XP retain a value. I want to see.
But that just makes dungeons longer, because then everybody's like, well, you got to get a full clear because that's the best method now, right?
Well, not necessarily. I'm just saying that, like, meaning not as the primary form of progression, but as essentially a secondary thing that it's not as valued, but it still doesn't go from valuable to completely worthless, in the sense that everything that you do that is generating it has this aftermarket effect in regards of just glamour, loot boxes, whatever. It just decides to shower you with it. And that way you end up having this sense that, running fates and doing these things, it's like it just becomes that judgment call. Whatever that right balance and right number is, is obviously would, you know, need to be what was tweaked. What I want to see though, like in that same kind of vein, is that I'd like to see a little bit more sandbox content brought in to the theme park. And what I mean by that is that, like, you have Eureka, and what was really great about it was it's this kind of original stuff that they kind of built and made for the relic grind. The downside is that it completely cut off all the other content that the relic grind had incentive in the past. And so the question is that could both exist in the context of where you're doing the relic and maybe you don't have a couple hours to spend in Eureka, but you have the ability to do a roulette? Could it give you a return at, you know, and I'm making up a number, so if anybody wants to debate me on the number, make up whatever number that you like to hear that you think makes sense and insert it into what I'm about to say. But let's say 50%. So let's say you went to go do whatever in Eureka, but you get a 50% return on that if you go and just do a kind of your daily roulette. Not like you can't keep running it over and over again, but you feel like you could kind of chip away at the progress, if that makes sense. What's up? What's going on, Chili?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I mean, that's so. I will, like, the problem is that there's something very similar in WoW right now, called AP, that starts to sound a lot like that, where everything you do grants it. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that don't like that system because it becomes so, it either is utterly worthless and everybody just ignores it, or it's so good that then people feel, okay, I have to go pursue X amount of progress on my relic week over week, and if I don't, I get behind. And so then it becomes this, you know, a lot like a tombstone grind where people gravitate towards those 2 or 3 optimal methods because it's just a chore.
Right.
Basically,
you start to focus in on that.
I played WoW for like 2 months and said, screw it, I'm done.
So AP is something in WoW that already has kind of shown its weaknesses, and they haven't totally decided how they're going to deal with it. They haven't given up on it because we still have an AP system today, but we had an AP system last expansion. So they're still kind of figuring out exactly what they want that grind to be. And the expansion before that grind was kind of their version of player housing, which flopped hard.
Yeah. Now, I'm not advocating for AP, but we have this thing called the elemental level, and you go and you get experience for doing that. And to sit here and cut people off and have it the only one method to do it obviously drives people into that method. And anybody who's like, I don't have time to do that method, didn't do it. And that's why I had no interest in it, because it's like, okay, I don't have 4 hours that I'm going to set aside just to run this content. And if there was a way that it was like, and that's how the old system actually worked. It was like you could go and do fates, you could go do these things, and it was all kind of chipping towards. And what was really good about it was it had you out in the open world. It had you doing all these things. But this had everybody move into an instance. And I'm saying that I think there can be a balance where, yeah, incentivize the most optimal way is the content that you want people to do, the new content. But it should still let, going and being able to run a fate or do these different things, should give me some form of player choice. But when you're cutting the question about optimization, it should be 1,000 times optimized for the content that it was designed for. It's like, okay, we designed it, here's the way you do it. You can only progress certain points in it, but from a time sync perspective, and without the tools like level sync and other things like that, it's like, all right, I guess I'll wait until it's introduced. All right, I think we got some context here from Vineland here. Let me see. Let me read it so I can see if I can't then say it.
Healer, heal me. Come on.
All right, so they ask.
I don't remember how this rule type works.
What do you first think about when I say, how do you define player impact on the context of an MMO? What do you answer to the question, what makes our time and engagement matter in the game? And they applies a little bit more context, saying, okay, so like people like to throw around labels such as casual or hardcore, but those labels are only ever defined by generic metrics such as time. My thought is asking what kind of things, experiences, and achievements, accolades, and everything else that creates impact with an individual or relative to other people, thus creating and defining a metric that allows people to make distinctions between a new player and a veteran. Does anybody need me to repeat that?
Let me make sure I understood what the question was. Basically,
Essentially, the sum of it is that what do you think about when I first say how do you define the player impact in the context of an MMO? Basically, when it comes down to people applying labels versus like casual versus hardcore, like what are like how do we define that? What was our thoughts on it? What's the context of the player and the impact? Chris.
Well, I mean, so the human brain can't really contemplate unlimited gray areas and unlimited variables. Like, we just can't. And computers may one day be there, but we're not. And so it's easier to process something if we put people in a series of buckets. And so if we say, oh, you're a, Republican, upper middle class, white male, Catholic, video game player, right? And those labels may have a Venn diagram of overlap with other people. And so it's not necessarily done as a way, in my opinion, to like hurt or box people in. It's done as a way to process. Like, I can't meet Brian and say, okay, let me understand all the complexities that is Brian, and then turn around and meet, Joe and say, okay, what are all the complexities that makes Joe? Like, it's too much. It's way easier for me to just group you in with a set of people that I already know and say, okay, you're like this person. And so when we call people hardcore, like, we're looking at the actions they take in game, and we're saying, okay, they play a lot, they play certain types of content, they play at a certain level, and then they tend to therefore have certain priorities. And so that can help define attitude and their level of patience towards other players of other types, and so on. So, like, I think that the labels are natural. I don't think that they intend harm. It's just up to the person how they handle the fact that, like, they're being called a casual. I don't think there's anything wrong with being called a casual, but it probably does hurt people. It probably does hurt people's desire to join the game if they hop in and they're like, oh, you're being such a casual. And it's like, well, I mean, if that hurts you, then yes, being called one's going to hurt, because, like, there's no way to stop people from calling that out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I think that's actually a sign of human development when people can, like, apply, like, when kids can start to categorize things. These are dogs, these are cats. I think on a contextual level, though, like how I look at it, I look at casual and hardcore as a state of mind, not necessarily a state of time available, because at different parts in your life, you'll go in and out of those labels when it comes to gaming, right? I might, as a dad, as a content creator, as a businessman, as a cartoonist, as a husband, as a father, like, as all these things that apply to the things that I'm responsible for and the things that I like to do, I have only so much time. I would consider myself a hardcore player, but I definitely don't meet the time. If there was a time requirement, I do not meet that by any stretch of the imagination. There's no way that I could. One of the things that you see about, like, Chris and I in our content specifically is, like, you're not going to necessarily, I mean, something could always change and we could always shift into the savage and the most difficult type of content in the game. And that would be cool. I'd be, I'm always amicable for that, but it takes a little bit more coordination and thus requires more time. And that's something that, I might not have. And so trying to commit to that is, I don't think is fair to other people. Right. So that's why we talked about it doing in Stormblood. It just, with my life and the housing crisis that we had, and all the extra work that I had to take on just to, like, survive 2018. It was, I was like, well, see you guys. I'll keep posting. I'll let you know when I can play more. So it's, when it comes down to it, it's that I consider myself a hardcore player, but a hardcore player could look at it and be like, have you beaten, all the savage raids? And be like, no. And he's like, then you're not hardcore. It's, okay. But then for somebody who is, like, starting out this game, they could see it and they're like, holy crap, you've got all this stuff leveled, you've done all this stuff, like, totally hardcore. It's like, yeah, that's definitely a long time investment, and I've put a lot of investment of time. But I think a casual player, like, I think a new player, I think anybody coming in, if they have the right mindset, can easily, it's just a matter of that. Like, one of the things that I find enjoyable is when somebody comes to tell me, like my guide sucks because it doesn't apply to, the newest Savage raid that just was released. It's like, okay, like, thanks for being a Savage Raider. I'm not making content for 1% of people. I'm making content for the 99% of people, but the 1% is important in this case. The hardcore people, because they inspire the casual people to try to become hardcore, and the hardcore people need the casuals because they outnumber them 100 to 1. The game would not function or could operate off of that, and we've seen that, and you see that in these harder games. They're like, we're going to only focus in on this one type of player, and it's like, we'll see you later, Wildstar, you know.
Yeah, and that's something that I think Final Fantasy does, or Square Enix, I should say, does a really good job at, as they cater to all types of players, and they are very good at it. I mean, you look at the stories, and then you got all the extra side stuff that goes on between the Gold Saucer, then you got the raids, you got the dungeons. People just, there's so many classes to level up. People can basically always stay busy. And I really like the idea of these limited jobs as well because of that aspect.
The limited system is by far one of the most refreshing things that they've done. It's not fully complete, and so time will only tell if it ends up being accepted by the community, like in the long run, where it's like, hey, you could either never get a blue mage, or you can have this, and this is a whole new way that you can play the game, and it does all these things. Okay, cool. But that's going to be a factor of time, you know, in that case. But I actually like how they did it. I cannot wait to see what other jobs they do. And if it means we can get more jobs between expansions, then I'm all for it. Like, that's, you know, yeah, bring it on.
Can you explain a little bit more on Blue Mage? Just, I haven't actually done anything with it yet. I just know the gist that you can, like, level up, like, basically steal
Blue Mage,
and then go do all the other content that we've done all the way up to, like, what is it, level 50 or something like that?
Yeah.
And then there's the
I'll let Chris
special
kind of break it down.
like power that they can do, but that's all I know to the gist. I don't know if there's anything more they can do that sets them apart.
So Blue Mage as a class is basically its leveling and its skills are separate. So you get skills by being exposed to them, and different mobs in the game have different abilities that you can capture, and so you have to kind of go out and seek out this log that you catch, because you could make it all the way to level 50 and not really have that many abilities unlocked if you haven't, you know, been carefully farming the right things or just been lucky along the way. And a fair number of those are behind content that does require you're in a group. So this whole idea that you're not in group play, it's like, well, then you don't have all the abilities because it can't be soloed at this time. So the problem is that most people are looking at the level 50 serving when they're making up their mind, and we've already been confirmed that we know it's getting level 60 and 70, so they're deciding whether or not they like content when we literally have 2 more rounds of content that we haven't even tried. So I mean, it's literally like taking one bite of like the free bread at an Italian place and being like, yep, their pasta's probably garbage, and just standing up and walking out. And so like, it's a little early to say that we do or don't like it. I would wait until we get the full serving. The second thing is that Blue Mage is a lot more important than Blue Mage. It doesn't really matter if you like the way Blue Mage levels, if you like the way Blue Mage gets abilities. Like, that's not the point. The point is that Blue Mage represents a way to play through the open world that we played through on our path to the current level cap, and play it with a new perspective in a new PvE system. So anytime you're trying to expand the breadth of an MMO, you want to add things that don't just count as dungeons, just count as raids for people to do, so that they don't get bored of like, oh, all that game is dungeons, all that game is raids. Like, not everybody wants a Diablo, I'm going to do meth runs until the end of time. And so that's how we get things like Golden Saucer, that's how we get things like hunts and gathering classes and crafting classes, and they're all just broad content. But the problem is that we all play this game because we like an MMORPG, which means the one thing that all the players have in common is that we do like PvE. This game doesn't have enough PvP to it to cater to people who only like PvP. This game doesn't have enough lore servings to justify 100% of your subscription. Like, you would be caught up on stories so much. You would only need to subscribe a couple months a year if you only play this for a single player story experience. You may choose to be subscribed all year, but you don't have to be. And so when you have a battle system, you can add another class, but that only adds so much play experience, because not everybody wants to sit here and play through the same experience 14 times, much less 15, 20, 25, 32 classes worth of like the same content, just 32 different viewpoints. So Blue Mage represents the first time that we've seen them say, okay, here's an entire system that doesn't have to follow all the same rules and can be a different perspective on the game. So I know that was a bit of a monologue, so like, if anybody disagrees with any of that, now's the time. Brian? No? Nobody? Oh, it moved me out of that channel. They didn't hear all that.
But I hated quests. They were boring to me. I couldn't stand them. So I wanted to do something else, and all of my friends were all wanting to do fates because of the relic. So
welcome back, Chris.
I joined them on that. And that was the thing where it was really nice, but now there's just like, there's no reason to go back and do fates. They kind of killed off fates with the introduction to the deep dungeons. Yeah.
And Palace of the Dead is a strong piece of content. I actually enjoy it. It's fun. It gives, it has its own challenge. It has its own system. What I would like to see with Fates, though, is to offer something, right? And that's where if XP just gave you a
Discord fail
cosmetic level up, like every time you level up, they said, here's a an item that you can decipher, and it's going to have, maybe I'll have some tomes, maybe I'll have a minion, maybe, just like, here's a thank you for leveling up past the level. It's not game breaking. All it is just cosmetic, right?
Oh,
but it's still that, like, oh, cool. Like, I can go chain these fates. Every time I get a quest complete and it has 0 XP on it, I just like, man, I don't know. And it's just because other games have done that and done it. Like, I thought it was how Destiny handled it. Like, okay, cool. XP still has value. It's not progression based, but it's still like, thank you very much. Like, you got a level's worth of whatever. Enjoy that.
Right. I agree. That would be a nice thing to see. It gives a lot more value to it, and I don't end up with these endless quests in my list of things to do that I've picked up that I now can't do anything with, because
the other thing that they could do is like add those like different items that you earn in Eureka or like in the deep dungeon, like 2 fates, right? Like, hey, you completed these fates, and here's the stuff that you then go have deciphered. So it ends up just being like a little fun thing that you can do. I'd like to see them also do something more with chaining fates, in a way that it's like, I like the fates that go from one to the next to the next to the next. And so you can kind of just like, fate yourself around the zone. And what would be interesting would be, has anybody here played 11?
I have not.
One of the things they did was, I like weekly or like every 2 weeks. I like those systems in which that as a community we're all quote unquote working towards something together, And so I would personally would love it to see where, whether it's over the course of, like, whether they pick out a handful of zones, because at some point we're gonna have too many zones for people to really care. But if it's like, this week, who gets the most monster kills and fates and whatever in these 5 zones, and then it's broken up by the grand companies or something, so that then you just go and say, oh man, and dungeons in my mind would also give points to whatever zone they're connected to. So it would be like, okay, cool, like I'm doing this, and then you could make it to where it's also gathering initiative and crafting. So it's like you could just, like, basically all systems of the game itself are working together as at a whole thing, and then at the end of it, it's totaled up, and something happens to the person who's in first, second, third, or whatever.
So how do you adjust that for so like in PvP, for example, you ended up with like the adders just had a certain win percentage, and like my personal impact on that didn't really affect, because we just, until they added the ability to kind of queue as a mercenary, like you just,
so essentially I would factor it based off of win streaks. So let's say adder continually came in first. Slowly, whatever that, and this is how they did in 11, slowly your points diminished, in the sense that it's like, okay, or like you could, instead of people sometimes don't like, nerfs, it's a nerf but by buffing the others. So let's say everybody else then got like a 1.2 for whatever the action is, and then and until that kind of evened itself out a little bit, until you could kind of have an ebb and flow, you can kind of manage it that way, because there could be more people in one free company than another, and people could be like, oh, the best way to do this is everybody shift over to this thing and go from there. And what you would have to do is that you'd have to say, you're locked in. Like, okay, if you change your free company, you don't participate in it. I'm not free company, but grain company. You don't participate in it for whatever. It's just I would say an algorithmic way to do it. And at the end of the day, they couldn't figure out. Honestly, I don't care, because it's passive content. It's not.
Sure.
It's not Savage content. It doesn't break Savage. It doesn't break your progression. It doesn't break anything. It's just saying like, hey, here's this fun thing that you can do to participate in it, and there's these, fun rewards. You're getting experience, and it applies to this other cosmetic stuff that you could do.
And
sorry, guys, on chat, I'm missing comments.
I'd love some open world PvP.
Oh man, I like how Guild Wars 2 handled it, where it's like you have PvE and PvP, and ESO did the same thing. Like, it was cool. I like that.
I don't really want open world PvP. I had enough of that crap with.
It can be opt-in, opt-out.
And then when I went to WoW, it was just as stupid and.
It's when I talk about open world PvP, I talk about Guild Wars 2. Like, it's a special thing that you opt into. So it's not what people often are like, oh, I'm running around and some guy comes up and punches me. It's like, no, like, you're in a massive zone, and you have PvE and PvP objectives and things like that. So you're participating and you're earning points for your, and it goes like the matches last a week long. So it's like, over the course of a week, all these things are happening. Hunting for Games is here. Welcome, Hunting. You can come hang out in voice, man. We're open voice right now.
But I guess the question on that is how would you really differentiate that from PvP that we have right now? Because
I'll let Chris answer first.
The people who PvP are going to be the people that really want to do the open world PvP, and all the people who just do the PvE stuff are going to stick to PvE, and they might go into PvP, maybe, but good chance probably not if they don't already go into it now.
I like WoW's current system. So WoW's current system has two forms of the world. You have the world as it is, and then you have the world in war mode. And you just choose whether or not you're in war mode, which is open world PvP mode. And for being in open world PvP mode, certain types of content have like a bonus to them. So say the relic grind or the tombstone grind encourages more open world content in Shadowbringers, it might drop more tombstones, or it might drop more experience, or you might get a bonus number of tokens for the beast tribes or whatever, to kind of say, hey, thanks for taking this additional risk. And then you go out into the more dangerous world, and then you just, anytime you want, you go back to basically the equivalent of Kugane, and you opt in or you opt out. And actually you can opt out at any time. So if you show up into a Zeme Step and there's 57 million, people running around on the other team, and there's nobody on your team, and they're just smashing you into the ground, every time you respawn, they're just smashing you. You can opt out, finish your whatever your daily tasks are without getting the 10% bonus. And then next time you go back to Kugane, you can jump yourself back into war mode. Maybe better luck next time. But it would be even easier because you could have it all locked behind the fate system. So you just literally hop into the fate. So you don't even have to have it as complex as WoW's. You could literally just tie it behind fates in various zones that pop up that are open world PvP events. And you just hop into that fate, and it's like, do this much damage to other people, and you'll get gold when the fate completes. And like, so you don't even have to be good at it. It's just go in, slam your face into a bunch of other people. Everybody gets, currency, and we all move on with our lives.
Welcome, DY though Yarn Dragon and Darkness 6677. Welcome to the workforce. Thanks for following us.
If they decided to do that, I would like for them to give us like tombstones. Or if they decide to change how they manage Gil, because I mean, really, there's no big use for Gil right now, and I think you guys mentioned that before in some of your
Many
videos
times.
before. So I mean, there's really no big use for Gil other than the houses, but even then, they
after that, like, it's like
the
okay.
housing market because of some of the changes. So
The
like,
yeah, our we're eventually, like, we're trying not to be labeled within the community as those guys who hate Gil. It's like,
I just don't have any use
Gil,
for it.
who's this Gil guy keep talking about? Why did Work to Game hate him?
Like when we logged in today, I made 750 or something today. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't matter. What am I going to use it for? So I just blow it on leveling stuff or whatever. I don't know. It's easy enough to make. It's just about consistency. Like Kai was saying earlier about like the MGP. Like if you want to pile it up, just keep doing the same tasks every week. Like if I would be diligent, I've had 2 days in the last 2 weeks that I've had 3 days in the last 2 weeks that I've made 800k or more in a single day. So if I would just do those tasks every day, 800k a day, it's like, oh, I would have a lot of money right now.
There's a couple interesting things about it, because you have, you know, how like people do a lot of studies on in-game economies, right? Like, okay, here's this economy, how does it function? I wish I was a place in the real life that I was in a place with 14, where like I make more than enough like for repairs, and I give most of it away. I'm very very generous in philanthropy within the Final Fantasy 14. Now I'm below 5 million right now because I've been just gearing up and leveling and being lazy. But I'll get that back up. Like outside of this, like I've never have a need for it anymore. I've reached this point in, like, I want to be in my real world. Like, oh, it'd be great if I had no need for money. I have enough of it that it makes more than I could ever care about on its own by just doing, you know, like for me, just doing whatever I'm doing. But not everybody obviously has that same, you know, that same problem with it. But it's kind of, I go back and forth because ultimately what I would want it to be, I would want crafting and gathering. I would want, you know, crafting to have a lot more weight to it, where it's more on par with what exists when it comes out, that these items that you would have to go and like would have to work hard and you'd have to get them off of bosses, and it has an incredibly low chance of dropping. And so there's a lot of competition, a lot of work in that regards to be able to have the gear. But if it's best in slot, then essentially you almost incentivize more people to go out and buy Gil, you know, to go out and purchase it, because if that's the path of least resistance to getting whatever you need, then that ends up being what you would incentivize if we made Gil have a stronger weight. The strength of it is that from an inflation perspective, you don't really run the risk of a new player coming in and being told, like, hey, yeah, I know this thing that used to be like 5,000 when we started, it's now 5 million, and the game is not necessarily like, you know, the quests and everything aren't adjusting for inflation, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's like, I think a lot more work would need to be done to kind of help offset that. So,
well, I don't know if
personally, I want like, again, like the more sandboxy stuff brought back into the game, as not as I don't want this game to be 11 or become more like a sandbox MMO, but it would be nice to see with all the kind of the focus on the quest and how they have it currently structured to be paired and married with it into a degree to allow for more player freedom. And that's what Blue Mage tells me. That's what Blue Mage shows me. Blue Mage is a sandbox type element. Like, we could go and do that. We can make our own fun in the content and the rules and what they have already provided.
The problem with Gil is there's no progression.
Yeah.
I mean, that's entirely the problem. So if you had everything set at, let's say that the market fee, the market fee is set at 10%, and that your delivery fees are 5% for the same city, 10% if it's in the same expansion, and 20% if it's in a different expansion. So let's just totally adjust all the fees as they exist today. And you could go to, I don't know, it's probably some new vendor next to the retainer vendor, and it probably costs some new currency because everything else does. And you hop over there, and you basically can through the process of making Gil, you can buy these tokens, right? So we'll say they're like platinum gil or something. And so you buy this platinum gil, and then you can trade platinum gil in towards skill points, and these skill points go towards leveling up. So you're reducing your delivery fees, which makes your auctions more appealing to people. You're reducing the auction house fee, but each time you do that, your total auction house level goes up. So for your first skill, it's like, oh, it's free, welcome to this vendor. And your second one, it costs 1 token. Your third one costs 1 token, and then it's 2 tokens, and then 5 tokens, and then 10 tokens, and then each token goes up in value. Then you could have a system where, like, you basically reward people with more money by giving them more money. And so it's not broken for low-level people because you're still getting something that's valuable to you. Like, oh, I'm sitting on 6 billion gil, and you're like, wow, I wish I had 6 billion gil. Yes, but to you, 6 billion sounds like a lot. But for me, my next platinum token is 10 billion. So to me, I'm still broke. And so you put people in this, like, never-ending hamster wheel where they chase it the same way we chase gear, the same way we chase glamour, the same way we chase everything else in this game that we seem to enjoy. We chase relics. Every expansion, we start the relic grind all over. So why has Gil not been put into a cycle like that?
True, I agree. And I think they could also just add more items that we can actually benefit from. I know you guys, I don't know if I've gotten a chance to watch that you guys have had for the
right back, guys.
Subscription tokens. It's kind of like what they have in WoW.
Yes, they should definitely have a token.
But I think they should definitely allow something like that in this game and allow you to spend the gil on it. And of course, they should probably have like some kind of limit on it, because you get people who have the 6 billion, and I mean, there's people with like maxed out gil basically on some of these servers, and they could
what does that get them?
Just keep. I mean, it doesn't get them anything, but they could basically just spend that gil all the time and never have to pay a dime for the game. And from a developer standpoint, that does not really work in your favor.
But that's not how the token works. So the token represents a real buyer to a real token. So every token that's sold gets $15 for the game. It's just, if I have the 6 billion gil and I sell 10 million gil for a token, and you want 10 million gil, then you buy the token for $15. So the market is set up around actual, it's an actual exchange. So all it is they're getting your $15 instead of mine in trade for me transferring some of my in-game money to you with a fee. So it doesn't even diminish the things for the developer. Like, it's literally cleaner than that. And that's why the WoW price changes all the time. That's why the token fluctuates in price, because every time there's too many people that, oh, I just want gold and I have 15 extra dollars, then the price per token goes down, right? Because they've got too many people giving money, and so they need more tokens, and it goes back and forth. So all of a sudden you have too many people. It's like, oh, well, right now I can play for a month for free for 1 million gil. Awesome. Well, I have 6 million gil right now. I'll play 6 months free. Well, there's a lot of people that would say that, and so as we all started to buy tokens, then it would start to say, okay, now to buy a token, it's 3 million gil, and then 5 million gil, and then 10 million per month. And then it's like, well, I'm not going to pay 10 million for 1 month subscription. That's not worth that to me. So it just fluctuates. It tends to stabilize between major content patch cycles, because there tends to be it tends to level out like most demand does, because it's leveled over the entire player population. So you're talking about millions and millions of players.
Right. I just wish the rest of the market was like that. There's some things in this game that just get completely just destroyed, and they're no longer worthwhile. That's the other big thing about some of the guilds. Like, even if you're a struggling player, you really got to find a niche market, get in it early before it just bottoms out. Like materia, for example, they kind of like killed that. I understand the need to be able to add more material to the game because of how important it was for raiding. But at the same time, like, for some people, especially those who don't have crafters and don't have gatherers, that was like the #1 way to be able to make money, to be able to make any guild, to be able to even do anything. So
yeah.
Then they flooded it in, so you went from a 700k materia piece to now maybe 70k,
Yeah.
Which you're not making anything on that. You can't do anything with it, and you might be trying to level up crafters so you can actually make some gil and do other things. So
I am back.
That is, I mean, that's the hard thing about this game is in most games struggle with it. It's why many of these games pay either full-time or on a consulting basis economists to come in and help them plan out future expansions, because they are driving an economy whether they like it or not, and crashing the economy does hurt the player base whether they like it or not. But the game generates items at a rate that's not proportionate to the rate at which it generates wealth. So like that's what leads to rampant inflation. Is it's much easier to get gil now. Just questing and running dungeons now makes me more money than it did in Heavensward, and so I naturally have more money. But my repairs haven't skyrocketed in price. I mean, they're higher, but they haven't skyrocketed. And the kind of gear I can buy with money is pretty limited. So like there's very little that I want to spend gil on, so I carry more gil now than I did in Heavensward just by the nature of it.
Yeah, I agree. I have 2.5 mil right now. I think that's the most I've ever had at one time that I actually could use and just sit there. I mean, the only other time I've had more than that was when I went to buy an FC house, and that was only because everybody in my FC contributed to that. So that's the only reason why I had like 20 million gil at that point. Other than that, like every other time I've had a couple 100K. I could barely keep $1 million.
Where does it go?
Yeah, where does it go?
For me, it was, well, I was a glamourholic.
That's what a lot of people end up saying.
I would spend, dude, you don't even understand, man. Every day I had a different glamour on. Like that's how much I spent at my gil, and I sold content at that point, so I was spending a lot of gil. But I mean, it's even then, even before I started selling content, because I didn't start selling until late 2.0. And so up until that point, like I still didn't have any gil, and then I transferred servers, so I basically had to reacclimate myself into society and that, or the community of that server, which was Gilgamesh. And at that point, you're dealing with people like Elysium, where they go ahead and try to sell against them. You're gonna get underbid like that.
So Toasty's really talking about in chat basically kind of what I've been kind of talking about is that there are like items that really, like you could get like, there was like a level 30 item and it's like, oh yeah, it's still probably one of the best in slot items. Like there was, because items also could have other like effects and things like that attached to them. So it really created a lot of build diversity, and we lose that with matchmaking personally. That's why we see, you know, the restrictions on Blue Mage, because like matchmaking, it's like, oh, you don't have this level 30 piece of gear that's 10 million gil, well then you suck, get out of my party. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, like what happened? I was just trying to play this game.
Phase, there is a DPS add-on that PC players use. The terms of service says that you can't, that you're not supposed to use add-ons in any sense of the word. And so the kind of unofficial policy towards DPS add-ons is that we don't talk about DPS add-ons. It's called ACT. Like ACT, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't have it. I'm not a PC player. So it's not even available to me. I couldn't use it if I wanted to. And so, like, definitely feel free to go explore that kind of at your own risk. It's definitely out there. I would say that pretty much every Savage group has at least one person, if not everybody in that group, is running a parser of some sort. But it's definitely not something that they're... It's not supported in the same way as like the WoW community, for example, where I have this whole like add-on tracker, and it's like, look at all these things that are out of date. Would you like me to update them? And I'm like, yes. And then it just handles it. They don't have like a nice big public API where there's just a bunch of add-on developers that have easy access to the game.
I wish they would add a parser to this game. It would be so helpful, because there is ACT. So many people use it. It's like a widely used thing for raiders specifically, and it's a very competitive thing for them because they want to pay attention to their DPS for raids. I mean, if you go to the FFXIV site, and it's super competitive. People are always trying to be that #1 spot. And you got speed runs of things just so people can go in there and just put up parse runs. And it's something for people to do at the at this kind of period where we're right here in this middle of patch with basically nothing to do, that would be something nice. That way people can use the content and not risk being banned for something that really is just
and like FaZe, you're saying, how do players
for them to do to play?
Exactly. How do they keep their performance in raids? Well, honestly, without the add-on, they don't. And so it's why people run it. It's why most of the high-end content, somebody in that group is running it. They're just talking about it over voice chat, or they're talking about it in a chat with a static group, a fixed group. They're not going around and telling some random person like, "Oh, your DPS is trash," and posting logs and things like that.
Well, they do have stones. I think it's Stone Sea Sky or something like that.
Yeah, there's it's like a target dummy.
But they need to gamify. They need to gamify the system a little bit, and that ends up giving us as the players the ability to turn it in. And it ends up being like, show me the stats. Like they do it in PvP. They show me the stats at the end of the match. Like I want to see my stats. Mikey's a little pissed. I'm just muting.
There's definitely like Brian and I have talked about this a lot, so I'll try to pick up his thought where he kind of left off. So, to gamify it, all they would have to do is make it a lot like the existing PvP thing. So at the end of PvP, you're told, like, here's what everybody's DPS was, here's what your DPS was. But if you don't want to show everybody else's, that's fine. Then show it in context of, like, here is an average of what other black mages did on this content in your eye level gear. Here is what we think a good baseline is: a gold, a silver, and a bronze. Here is what you did last time. Here is your average. Here is your best. And just kind of encourage people to look at that. And then that's how you can phase that into things like a Hall of the Novice expansion that talks about the level 80 rotation. And you say, hey, if you want to be better, like, let's go in and let's talk about like what your rotation should be. Let's talk about what your welcome Sorakume 21, and let's talk about like, oh, you know, you're a black mage and you don't even have thunder on your bar, and so like when your DPS is coming in a little low, it's because you literally don't have a dot at all. You're just not dotting anything. There is no form of thunder anywhere on your bar, and so when it says like, hey, you know, this is the percentage of DPS that should come from your dot in this fight, and if you go do your Hall of the Novice run for some free piece of Black Mage Glamour, they actually have you dot 27 things and show you the value of Thunder. It gives you a place to educate from, but they've chosen to instead just say, we don't want to engage with it at all.
And
I think it comes out of a place of fear for them. I think it's like, that's why they're not engaging. I'll be right back.
But I guess on the fear thing, what kind of fear can we really have? People getting upset because somebody's watching what they're doing? We already have that right now with the third-party thing. So
well, so if they sanction it, people believe that single-handedly is what made the WoW community toxic. That's the fear.
I don't know. I'm not. See, I look at things a little bit differently on that, because I would go, it's be an all-inclusive thing. Granted, I was a pretty hardcore raider. I used to raid all the time. So, but that was even before ACT and all that stuff even came about. And it was toxic then. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can go both ways on it, and it's really hard to decide. But I guess you could say, give it as an option for people to be able to have, I guess. That way they can at least see what they're doing, be able to improve themselves. Because really the teaching part of this game is just not there. So you end up in dungeons, like I was just in a guild test here just before when I got on, and
the mighty guild test.
The healer didn't even know what they were doing. I kept dying, and so did the rest of the party. But I'm in the middle of trying to play tank. Would consider myself a newbie tank. I'm still kind of learning war here. So I don't have the ability to constantly type in chat to tell them how to heal. Even though I do make healer, without them being in a voice chat or anything like that, I can't technically tell them how to do everything right there. So if you have a teaching mechanic in the game that actually is substantial and good, I mean, it would be really worthwhile. And why I say having like some kind of ACT equivalent in this game would be so beneficial. People that way they can actually learn, especially with the fact they gave us this the jump potions. The way you can go from 0 to 60, like, or 50, whatever it is now, like that, and you have all of these abilities that now you got to learn how to use them, and you're a brand new player. Oh, it's like that would be an extremely helpful thing, and it would have definitely, in my opinion, I think it could help with lowering the toxicity, because you get people that are veterans of this game who've been playing since 1.0, 2.0, whatever, but now they're playing with a brand new newbie who has no idea what they're doing, and you might be a tank or a DPS who's constantly dying because the healer doesn't know what they're doing, or the tank doesn't know what they're doing, so the healer's getting pissed off because the tank can't hold hate, and now they're holding the hate because they're healer, and they're dying. It's one of those things where, like, they should do at least something more than what they're doing.
I agreed on something, but I think the assumption that it would help or hurt toxicity, I kind of look at toxicity in the sense the same way I look at money. It's like money doesn't make you a good or a bad person. It just makes you more of who you are. So if you're a toxic player, a kind of a real-time parser would make you a more toxic player. If you're not a toxic player, then it would help you out. It's a tool in which that would hopefully help, kind of develop you as a player, and bring you into that education. The game doesn't teach you how to play because it's a single player game, and then it has a multiplayer MMO component that you can go and do. And those two, that's where a lot of the disconnect comes in. And then a lot of people are like, especially because the game forces you into multiplayer while playing the single player game. And so that ends up being a point of contention where you see people who are like, I'm just here to play like the story in the game. And all of a sudden I'm, somebody who's trying to run 1,000 times. Hey, Bosco, welcome to the workforce. That's where essentially it's misaligned expectations. It's, I expected that this was going to be my activity, and you expected something different, and thus we were frustrated. But all that being said, like, no, I think that the game needs to be able to give the players the tools so that they can go and figure it out. Most likely, because my wife, she has me run parsers. I don't run parsers on myself. Like, I'll do it like if I'm testing out a rotation, but I don't have them on now. I mean, there's nothing to parse. But Julie wants to see it because she is not coming from a place of, I want to go crap on somebody. She's coming from a place where she's like, how can I get better so I can help everybody's experience get better? So she's coming, that's her approach.
I feel like I'm the weak link.
And she's here. And she's beautiful and amazing and not holding any weapons.
No, I'm the weak link in the team, and so I like to make sure I'm actually improving and not just doing a rotation that's doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any more mac and cheese?
No, the girls ate it. I know, I'm hungry too.
See, I'm the same way, and when I started. This actually was my very first MMO like this.
Oh, nice.
I played, and I had a buddy of mine from high school talking about it all the time, and that's how I ended up getting into it. So when I started, I had zero clue what the heck a rotation was. I was just kind of hitting buttons and doing whatever, and then I started getting into some of the endgame content when I hit level 50, and we couldn't pass some of the stuff like in whoever the electric guy is. That one trial, I can't think of his name at the moment.
Big beard.
Yeah, the big beard, gray guy.
Yeah.
Ramu.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ramu. We couldn't clear Ramu because I didn't have the DPS. And as a whole, at that point in time, I would say the game was significantly harder back in 2.0 in that area because of, one, the lack of any kind of parser, so nobody even really knew what the DPS was, and the rotations were just different, and there wasn't a whole lot there.
Yeah, Chad on Discord right now is talking, not Discord, on Twitch, talking kind of about like it wouldn't help with rotations, and I definitely agree. Like, I think stats though would essentially, the goal isn't to hold everybody's hand and just make it like a one button push and win, but it would be to invite them, give them the information to say, like, because Chris kind of said it earlier. Imagine if it returned stats like, did you know, like, you on this content for similar eye level, you performed in the bottom 25% of black mages. No, I did not know that. Okay, that's interesting. Why is that? And thus it then invites that, like, it gives them their stats. And then also what it would do is that I like the run over run. So the next time you run that dungeon and be like, hey, previously you ran it at this, you now ran it at this, and like, did you get better? Did you get worse? You know, things like that. So that all of a sudden you start seeing your previous, you know, stuff, and instead of you comparing to other players, you're actually now comparing to yourself. And that typical, like, hope, not typically, but the hope would be that it challenges the player to like, oh, but what if I do this? Oh my gosh, that's getting better. And if they introduce that earlier on, all of a sudden it's like, I've run this dungeon, I've run it again. Now I'm kind of personally challenging myself to get better. And then it's like, and then you start playing around with, well, how can I get better? What can I do? And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, baby.
Yeah, I agree.
So one of the questions that, or one of the conversations that people were talking about in over here on Twitch, was talking about content and difficulty, and saying that a lot of people want to see like another tier to the raid. So there would be normal and savage, and I personally would hate that idea. I think that it would be something that would be more work for people to do on the same kind of content. What I would rather see personally is content that levels up. And maybe not necessarily the raid itself, and you know, that could be a separate conversation. But we kind of talked about this in the form of like, when I beat a dungeon, it would be cool if the dungeon leveled up, and then I can go and do like, it would be a special content. It wouldn't be like just regular dungeons, but essentially where you go and you can all of a sudden be like, okay, like I beat it at this dungeon at plus 10. Now it's at plus 11, and then I'm really struggling it, and you know, so that. Because I don't think that, like, if we said that we wanted to put in a step between Savage and the normal, like, raid, well, what's going to stop them from putting in, like, well, now we need another step between normal and half Savage, you know? Because some people might be always getting caught and struggling on one of those steps. But the difficulty needs to be dynamic, and that as you hit certain tiers, new mechanics and things like that are introduced, new modifiers are applied, so that the content is always going to be challenging and you can always go and find something to do. The other half of that's the reward. Why do it? We can go make any dungeon right now challenging and hard as heck by doing the minimum eye level requirement. But there's no reason to. So that's the other half, is the incentive and the, you know, for why are you doing what you're doing. But the other piece of it is that at level 80, you know, like, we've got enough content in this game that could easily rotate that stuff in and out. It's kind of like the Mythic Plus system, but I've never played that in WoW, so I don't know.
So with unspoiled nodes, by the way, not to just drastically change subjects, but I'm working on this quest where I'm stuck on this quest where it's an unspoiled node. Is that server time, or is that real life time that it's talking about 4 a.m. over on Gamerscape?
Probably that'd be Eorzea time.
Eorzea time. So the one that's ticking like every second or whatever.
Yep.
Okay. So I've got an hour and a half. Great.
Yep.
4 p.m.
Anyways,
Awesome.
as far as that question goes with the raid, I would like for there to be another tier, but I see what you're saying, because then eventually you'd need to add another tier to keep the complexity going. That's why I like the idea of with the is it ultimate.
Well, Joseph's server time.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Then I'd have 45 real minutes.
And why they made it so you have to sink back down to that eye level like it is now. I'd never got a chance to do it because it came in when I was on my year-long break. But I like that idea, and they need to do something like that more often, and a challenging thing like that, and it needs to be synced back down, so even though you might get to be a
more powerful
eye level, you sink back down to 300 eye level. That way you still have the difficulty, it's still something to go do, and they need to keep leveling it up so you keep having like this different tower kind of feature with it. And
that's what Larry's was talking about, is that he hopes that they said they were going to do 3, and they only ended up doing 2. My controller's like freaking out, and I'm just running around in a circle. There he goes. Now,
Gunnar, are you new to the game? If so, welcome. So first, I would, before you buy a copy of the game and you're trying to decide do you buy like collector's edition or not, I would first play the free trial to level 35. That way you're not paying a subscription or paying anything. And then the difference between the different cost versions is just digital stuff at that point. And you can always buy that digital stuff later. So if you're not sure if this is a game for you, since you haven't played it at level cap yet, I would just buy the cheapest editions you could get your hands on. Sometimes those are on sale. So I'd definitely look around for that. Some of those sales are tied to like being an Amazon Prime member and things like that. And so I would just go around and look for that.
I'd agree definitely on doing that.
And then you can always come in and buy the mounts later. You can always buy it's called like a digital collector's edition upgrade kit or some crap like that. And you just and it's the same $20, so it's not like you're screwing yourself. You just pay $20.
Hey, Chris, just to let you know.
Hey, Clink.
Hey, it's going on, Brian. Hey, just to let you know with that thing, it said a certain Eorzean time, and then I think you also have to have the ability that allows you to find out spoiled nodes active as well too.
All right. So I've got a half hour to get back. So I'm flying back now. What ability is that called? I've never done
I'm trying to remember what it is. It's like Toil of the something.
The Toil will reveal like all the things that are there. So, but it's Truth of Forest, Truth of Mountains. It depends on if you're mining or if you're buying.
Yep.
I would just turn them on both, just so you could.
Yeah,
see.
you can have both on. Whenever. It's funny that it's like you have.
How do I know? I assume I have it because I'm on a.
You should have it. It's like a level 50 ability.
Oh, level 50. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Toil of the Pioneer, Truth of Forests.
Something like Racy Veins, where one could go with the Dare Lesby. With an 80-90% potential damage. I don't know about that, Shark. I don't know. If you have any context on that.
Yep, I really can't stay on too much more longer. I gotta hit the bed. I have plumbing guys coming out tomorrow, and I gotta go to work. So.
Well, thanks for coming and saying hi, Clink. Get some rest, buddy.
What the fuck?
Hey, who's cussing?
There we go.
Raise your hand. Who said that?
Oh, as you said about the dungeons and having different tiers, I agree that they should definitely do something like that to make dungeons a little bit more difficult as you gear up.
It's just they won't be able to make it fast enough. They can't make content fast enough.
I say they should make it like the Mythic Plus, like what WoW does.
Hey Chris, can you explain Mythic Plus to the people who don't know like what it
absolutely,
currently is?
Absolutely. So Mythic Plus allows you to go into one of the existing dungeons tied to that content. So it would be one of the new Shadowbringers dungeons. So it's not like some crazy system that they have to go back and retrofit everything. And you pick a difficulty, a lot like the Diablo Rift system. So you'd have like Mythic +1, Mythic +2, Mythic +3, and you just go as high as you want. And you have these keys that keep you from just setting it however you want. Whoa, what is all this? This is my first time doing an unspoiled node. And so you have keys that are generated, and that kind of drives you to which thing you'd have to do next. So you don't necessarily just get to pick your favorite dungeons, and then based on how high you let that number creep up, that determines not only the reward you get out of reach. What do I just try all these?
So no, go back to what was it say?
Oh, Rogger Streak. Okay. And then do I just they have
you
affixes.
Can use like Toil of the something, and it's like it will reveal everything. Otherwise, you have to guess.
Toil of the Pioneer.
And it will.
Oh, nice.
And then it shows you whatever. Now, if you've got it memorized, you don't need to use Toil. If you've got it because there's always going to be in the same spot. So if you know what you're going for,
cool.
You'll see out of reach, and then you'll like clear that.
Okay. And then I kill time until the next. Okay, so Mythic Plus. So basically, as you go up in levels, it adds affixes like a deep dungeon level modifier, and so it might add like exploding, which means that every time you kill a guy, it drops like the same little circle that bombs drop when you kill them, like the self-destruct. And so you would have a whole dungeon where pulling things in big groups would get really dangerous if you killed them all at the same time, because they would start dropping bombs everywhere. You might have another one that has like an enrage, and so every time you kill a monster, all the monsters that you are currently in combat with get 5% increased damage done and taken and output. And so it's like, wow, as long as we can take it, it speeds the dungeon up. But if we can't take it, it's going to wreck us. And then as you go up in levels, you get to where you're not just taking one affix affix anymore. You're taking on multiple affixes. And then at the end of the week, for the highest mythic you cleared, you get a piece of loot basically automatically. So you'd get a piece of like tombstone loot just handed to you. And that tombstone loot would have an eye level on it that is adjusted based on the mythic that you did to get it. So it's not necessarily like, oh, you just get the same as Savage Gear. It's like, no, you would get a piece of loot. Like if you're clearing Mythic 25s, yes, you'd get Savage loot. But if you're clearing a Mythic 7, it's like, well, no, you get the equivalent of what a Mythic 7 player should see as an improvement. So it encourages you to constantly push yourself. I think you stop getting increased gear loot at like Mythic, it's like 13 or higher or 14 or higher or something like that. After that, you've already maxed it out.
See, if they were to implement something like that, they would need to give a lot more,
Testing,
like,
1, 2, 3.
like
Hello.
gear,
Hey.
Hello.
full X
Yeah,
ability,
okay.
so you can decide
Sorry
what you want to
about-
do.
I had to reinstall like Discord like a couple of months back to the public testing client, and I haven't configured my voice settings since then, so it was stuck on.
Yeah, you sound really low. I don't know if it's. I don't know if
Yeah, you're
anybody
quiet.
else is having that.
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh.
quiet to me.
Yeah, I turned off music tonight to help
Hold
with
on.
quiet people.
Meanwhile, I'm just like, yeah,
Maxed out.
jamming out.
Because to
Testing,
me,
is
that,
this better?
Oh, much
Yeah.
better.
Much better.
with the Mythic Plus system like that, to me that would kind of make you more incentive to do those dungeons, make them a little bit more fun, a little bit more challenging, and actually kind of make people think a little bit more on tactics on how to actually do the dungeons instead of just mass pulling everything and then expect your healer to do all the work of healing you and also DPS at the same time.
And they're
I think
statics. They're like Savage. So you queue in. So you opt in. It's not a roulette. So like Mythic Plus is not a roulette. It's absolutely tied. It's static content. So it would
But
only
it gets,
be for
it
people
gets more
that want that
difficulty
reward.
every time you beat it, right, or something like
Yes,
that.
but well, so if you beat it, so it has a time just like the Greater Rift system in Diablo. And so if you beat it and under the time, you get a key, and that key goes up. So if the time is 5 minutes and you beat it in 4 minutes, then I don't know how the times are like. They're a lot longer than that. But say the time was 5 minutes, you beat it in 4 minutes, and you were playing a level 3, it might give you a level 5. If you beat it in 1 minute, it would give you a level 10. And so it goes up based on how much you beat it in. And then if you don't beat it, you end up just kind of staying at that level. You don't keep going up. I think there's a way to kick yours down. So if you get like a level 13 of Dungeon X and you're like, oh yeah, screw that, I think you can kick it down to like a level 10, so you could just blow through it and see if you can get a key that you can actually do, because not all dungeons are created equal. So your particular group makeup might be like, oh yeah, there's no way we're clearing whatever dungeon at that level. We're just not there. And you
It's
only
if
have to
you
clear
fail
one a
the
week.
time where it goes down.
Yeah, if you fail the time, but you can manually rank it down, right?
Yes,
I
you
would
would have to
assume
go
so.
in and then back out, which is basically you take
Okay.
your group, you
I thought
go
there was
in,
a way
and
to
everyone.
manually just do it.
No, there's not. Not
Okay.
anymore. They took that away. But
Okay.
I mean, they could implement something like that.
See,
But it would
I
be
could
just
like-
like a Savage Plus. It would basically be the deep dungeon modifiers applied to the Shadowbringers dungeons, and then you would just add a number of affixes based on how much things scaled up, and then you would scale up the mob's health and damage output as well.
Yeah,
they
I
could also-
always just say that as leveling him up. It's like, okay, cool. Like there's a lot brick thick. You could. So in theory, you could go, until, and so that would be so cool in my mind to have that then connected to with the leaderboard and things like that, so people could be like, oh wow, did you see this group? They did, they're on, plus 20 or something like that. Like, oh man, like the rest of us are a plus 4.
And it
And
gives you something to do in between major patches and in between the major patch and expansion.
Yeah.
There's
Draco, you've
And
been
they-
trying to say something?
nothing to do.
Yeah, and they can also use it to teach people like the Savage raids and Savage in the mechanics. It's another form of teaching, which I really enjoy on this game, on the Final Fantasy XIV. I really enjoy this a lot. That it does introduce you the teaching and stuff. And I came from WoW about 2 years ago, I came over to Final Fantasy from the girlfriend, got me over here. So we've been playing and kind of leveling things up. So
what eye level do you need? Anything. What eye level do you need for Shadowbringers? Anything like 350 or above. 380 should be pretty easy to get. That's what I'll go in at 380. You don't need to be best in slot because you're going to replace all that gear by level 75.
Yeah, what you'll see is a lot of when they announce like what the gear level is, some people might feel kind of frustrated that are 400 or whatever, that they work so hard for the gear, and then it's like, oh, what do you mean by level 74 or whatever, that it's comparable to this. Like, I feel
at level 74 it'll drop like a 390, and so like that'll replace my gear and not theirs, and at level 75 it'll drop a 405 or whatever, and then they'll be like, oh, so yeah, maybe your gear holds out one more level than mine, maybe two more levels.
Cases, if you get BIS, you can actually go all the full 10 levels without ever changing gear until the very end, which is for me in a way I like.
Yeah, we weren't talking about
I didn't waste my time going for gear.
Intermediate difficulty. Actually, it was something different.
I can't hear you, buddy.
Oh, I said we weren't talking about adding I mean, it was adding an intermediate difficulty for rating was mentioned, but the solution was, I just came on Discord because I wanted to clarify that.
Cool, thanks.
I said that re-incentivizing older raids under synchronized level, under sync can provide opportunity for people to learn without overwhelming them. Because, you're not given a full kit of abilities, 50, 60, soon to be 70.
I don't know. I've often kind of gone back and forth, and I think I finally landed on, like, I would be fine if anybody in sync content had access to their full kit, if it was just scaled potency-wise.
Yeah, I think scaling people back to their old skill rotations teaches bad habits. Especially when you talk about classes like Black Mage, where, giving them a level 50 kit means, your rotation is 100% different than your level 70 rotation.
True.
And so
I think a new player, a player who's in the content, it's like, this is my rotation,
I would instead say that what they need to do is they need to either stop drastically changing what the abilities do and start leaving the kit more static and focusing on changing the content that we're in as adding variety and not the kit itself. So that they can do this, or they need to be ready to take on having a curated form of Hall of the Novice that picks up at level cap and sends you back in. And just like Hall of the Novice introduces you to the game, says, okay, now you're at level cap, let's talk about rotation, let's talk about the role DPS, tank, healer, because this is plenty of people's first MMO. And they need to start tutoring people because their questing process doesn't do it. You can make it all the way to level cap and have no idea how to do your rotation, especially if you're a healer, because you spend all the time getting to cap killing things, and that is not your job.
But I don't know. Do you think that the effort that the community has, takes part in terms of guides or things like, because if you give people their full kit, you're kind of overwhelming them. Like, you need a segment.
Only if they came into the game with the full kit and you're like, what the heck is happening?
Yeah.
If I'm a level 70 player and you take it away, I've already seen the full kit and I need to practice it most likely. And if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I don't have to physically press those buttons, but it would be nice if there were an option, because it does.
Your class quest should have been.
Well, also, it's not just the job rotation. It's also doing that while you're doing mechanics.
And your class quest should have been doing that. Your class quest should have been doing that.
Better to overwhelm them right away than to worry about it later when they actually get the full.
Yeah, when they're in their the savage or whatever, and if they're feeling like, that's where, like, if you're feeling overwhelmed to that point, like, why is that? Like, you need to be practicing.
Like, I mean, don't you guys identify with that a bit? Like, because I know you guys
the game
died
does
a
a
couple
terrible
times
job
during the
the game does a terrible job teaching
trial.
The game does a terrible job teaching you.
I haven't done the latest trial,
but I don't think the answer is group content. I think the answer backs up to
MSQ,
single player content.
Oh yeah, like I died
like
because I didn't get the one of the things burnt down first.
Yeah, I died and I went and bought a whole new set of 380 gear and went back in and mowed it down. But I just pay to win. Turns out how much to beat that quest? About $2.5 million. 2.5 million. I didn't have to get any better at my class. I could just walk in and kill it. So I would say that the problem really comes down to this game. This game chooses to be a single-player game that opens up into being a multiplayer game, and so if there is a problem with people not knowing how to play their class, and there is a problem with people being overwhelmed, which I do agree that there is, that you shouldn't say, okay, now that you're in group play, let's teach you how to play in a group and let's teach you how to play your class. They need to back up, and that needs to be taught during the single player experience. So expand the Hall of the Novice and add it to class quests. The first time I get Thunder as a Black Mage, there should be class quests that require that I use Thunder and show me the value of Thunder. Kill 5 targets while Thunder is active. You know, kill 10 targets while Thunder is active, and start to reward me for, oh, I should put my dot up. You know, like
from a healer perspective, like whenever you have the NPCs that you need to heal, put them in your party list, because especially as a controller player, like that's how I heal. I go through the list and heal the person who needs it, and I don't have that option in those quests because those are just little NPCs that are just kind of around me, even though they're in my party. It's like I wish that I'd love to see it have that kind of synergy.
I mean, dungeons are also part of that, you know, skill progression. I mean, there's also that.
Right, but dungeon, and that's the weird thing. It's the single player game forces you right into kind of a multiplayer, and that's why I think they're introducing trusts so that doesn't necessarily need to occur.
What's up, but then you get the people. I feel like by adding the trust, as cool as it's gonna be, at the same time it's adding to that ignorance thing where you don't know what you're doing, so you just run as in a trust, or run with a squad, or run with something like that all the time, and then you go decide to do, I don't know, a raid where you have to run with some kind of multiplayer system.
And that's where the parser,
because you can't do anything. Because
that's exactly where the parser or stats with the content can help offset that.
That's where the parser, every time you finish a dungeon, says, hey, by the way, you got a C on this. If you'd like to get better, did you know that as a healer, you only cast the same ability? Like, you have more than one heal.
You over-healed for, like, 9 million HP, and you're constantly out of MP? Like, let's talk about that. Maybe you should have, you know, done something different, you know? I could see it, it'll be neat to see how that if that has any kind of impact, because just choosing to play with trust isn't going to make a player bad. A player who, just like a jump potion doesn't make a bad player, it just makes somebody who, like, is the player going to go and then read their tooltips? So are they going to go and try to figure out, like, figure it out, or watch a guide? And that's a human thing that nothing they can do in this game will ever change how somebody chooses to engage with the content. You know,
I mean, even for all the horror stories that, you know, that crop up on Discords or Reddit about teaching other people, I mean, do you think the community? Because I don't know. I think that it does.
The problem I run into with people who quote unquote teach other people is they don't invite the player into the conversation. They force themselves onto the player, and thus essentially it becomes an adversarial relationship. If I'm going to teach somebody, I don't say, hey, you're doing this and you're doing it wrong, or you should try doing this. I go, hey, if you know, I played that job, I really like it. If you're interested, I have, you know, I happily share some thoughts with you, but no worries. You know, it's more like, listen, like, I get it, it's your game, whatever. But if you would like to have a kind of a deeper experience and appreciation, like it's switch. I flipped the script. It's, you know, even when somebody, like, it says, hey, somebody who's never run this before, I typically go, hey, welcome, I hope you're having a good time. If you got any questions, let us know. You know, and it's like, it changes the entire relationship and mood for that player. And that's just where it comes down to. Like, never have I seen, and not that it's impossible, but never have I seen, you know, me coming off, you know, and say, like, and going and saying, hey, you're doing this wrong. You need to, and I've had somebody who eventually we got to that point where I was like, you got to be trolling me, dude, because, like, you are actively getting us killed. Mm-hmm. So I'm now at this point going to drop. I'm going to wish you the best. I'm going to assume, you know, that your intentions were pure, but, like, I can't, you know, spend 30 minutes in normal Titan because I gotta go. It's like, but he literally like kept spinning Titan around, so we would always get hit by his moves like constantly. I was like, it's not an action RPG.
Yeah. I can't say the same. I think I've had better experiences with parts of the community, like PvP, for example. They definitely have that kind of invitation. Like, do you want advice? Do you don't you know about X, Y, and Z? And I don't know.
The problem is this game teaches me way too much about fetching and about killing 5 solo mobs as a solo version of my class, and nothing about my class. Like, and so really the thing about the trust system is if the trust system had been there since level 1 and I was running around with my 5-man squad and we were pulling these big epic things that if my healer wasn't with me or was low on mana, I died, and so I was constantly running in 4-man content. Then when I went into dungeons and you swap all those trusts, all I would be saying is, oh, how do you act different than my trust? Oh, you're better than my trust? We can pull harder stuff. Oh, you're worse than my trust? Well, let's talk about that. And so, like, the problem is it's a single player game, and then we just drop them into this, like, we're like, hey, now there's going to be way more damage going out, you have to move more often, and you need to do this rotation that nobody's ever told you about, and if you don't do it, you're going to have real players dying and wasting their time on you. And so it just becomes this blame game, and it, like, the game does it to itself. So the trust system for me isn't so much about what it means during Shadowbringers, it's that right now Stormblood content is about to become single player content. Like right now, if you make it to Stormblood, I can run it with you. My brother just entered Stormblood. If he comes across a dungeon, it's really easy to find a group. That's about to go away. There's about to be a whole lot of people who don't care about Stormblood content. And so the trust system for me, what I really hope for is not that it makes Shadowbringers better, it's that when we're off in 12.0, that when people get to Shadowbringers from that point on, they're like, oh, thank God there was somebody who actually wanted to run this content from 2019 with me.
Yeah. The only issue with that is they don't really give a reason to go back now, and I'm like for the idea of jump potions for the fact of I don't want to go back through and level up all of these classes from ground 0 all the way up to 70. That's a lot of levels to level up. I do like this new accessory they gave us. It's, I mean, the
new accessory is great.
Crazy good, but before that accessory came about, trying to go from ground 0 up to max level was just it's brutal. It's a huge grind. But
the problem I see with the jump potion is that we don't have a system to offset it.
Sherlock.
What I mean by that is that right now either play through this single player RPG for what? What are we gonna guess? 120 hours, like for all the story content, maybe more. And
put 2 weeks into it.
I'm just saying, like hours wise, like like if you're playing it hardcore, like it's gonna take you some, it's gonna take some sincere time to get to the top. Or you can buy a jump potion and you're ready to get into the new content. What I want to see is that, like we're talking about, like incentivizing also the old, like doing old content. And this all comes together in that theme, especially of XP not ever being worthless because I've got all my battle classes capped. Well, like there's nothing for me to go play with somebody with until the new expansion, and at some point that's going to expire as well. But if we could have the ability to like level sync, I could see your quests, we could do the content together so that you are playing, and maybe that's what New Game Plus is. I haven't seen it yet, so maybe that's going to be what kind of helps set it off.
I mean, we've already seen that kind of behavior before in A Realm Reborn, right? With Titan Hard Mode, Titan Extreme, all without those newer kinds of systems. That, with you wanting EXP to keep accumulating. The Prestige was enough for people back in A Realm Reborn, in the Titan Hard, Titan Extreme, to see the excitement of people clearing. That was enough for people back then. I don't see any reason why it would be any different now.
I think what New Story Plus needs to be, so what WoW has that 14 could do better It's WoW's system, but 14 is primed to take way better advantage of it. Is what's called time walking, and so what they do is they pick a week, and so like let's say the first week of next month we're going to do time walking Heavensward, and time walking Heavensward. What it means in WoW is that you can enter a roulette and you just do dungeons from that expansion, but like Final Fantasy has such a beautifully told story, and WoW doesn't have that, and so you could say like, oh, go do this many story missions from Heavensward. And so it's basically a challenge log that isn't up every week. It's just up this week, and this week it's only targeting Heavensward, and next time it will only target a Realm Reborn, or it'll only target Stormblood. And so it gives you a chance to go back and experience that. And so for those weeks only, it becomes really easy for kind of new players, because you can't expect everybody to have a continued interest in it. That's just not sustainable. And so you just drive it on those individual weeks, and then you give them tokens. So you give them, you know, kind of history tokens, and those history tokens can be used to buy like historic mounts. So maybe there's a new pony added to the game, and there's a new dogo added to the game, and so it's like the ghost dogo and the ghost pony and all that, and the only way to get those is to go do time walking of that expansion to get those tokens. So it's like, oh wow, yeah, I got all the dogos back when that expansion was live. I really want the ghost dogo now, so I'm looking forward to going and doing those kind of history events. Because you've got to do something to breathe life back into those zones. You've got to, like, it's such a bummer that, like, I'm enjoying this beautiful zone right now, and in 6 months, like, I'm never going to come back here. I'll come back here for Blue Mage, I guess.
That's one of the things that ultimately really frustrated me, and it's part of the, you know, and I like the zones in Eureka, and you get to see a lot of the people, but I was, like, in the sea, you know, the Ruby Sea, and I didn't see anybody my entire time there. And it was just dead. And I was just like, this is so sad. These zones are so beautiful. Why is it one and done kind of content? And then eventually, okay, now you have the Beast Tribe. Okay, now there's, you know, like, I'm done on that. Okay, well, you know, and it's not a problem that everybody has, because it's like, you know, like we're all the, you know, the content, and I'm just somebody who's like, and you know, when I talk with like Chili, like he's like, he's done all the Savage, it's like he's looking for a reason to log into the game, and the game, you know, I think it's in the game's best interest to provide him that reason to have CJ, also that form of aspirational content. Go ahead.
To answer your question real quick, CJ, so you guys are split across multiple servers that are all in the same data center right now, and you're getting split up. So if it's only one of you that's getting split up, I would say that's the person that probably needs to transfer. Ryan did a video on this, but so if you guys want to watch that at your convenience, but if not, it's basically that one person's going to have that opportunity to transfer. And so since they're on an affected server, like they'll have the ability to transfer during that window of time, and they can just transfer.
Yeah, don't sell your house. Don't sell your house or your apartment.
Don't sell your house. They're going to give you a refund for it.
And then some.
And then some. So like if you don't have an apartment, I would go buy one, because you get the cost of the apartment plus a allowance for the fact that they can't go in and redeem you for individual items. So I would buy an apartment, keep it empty, and gain the free allowance on the transfer. It's just a way to game that system. So
honestly, I just want a way for people to use XP after capping.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's useless.
All that has to be is a Paragon system. That's all it has to be. And so you can just say, like, oh, after you level after this, you get these experience points, so, like, I can fly faster in the locks. And, like, it doesn't break anything. It's a nice thing to have this expansion. And next expansion, I don't spend any time in the locks. So now I have to go out and gain fresh new Paragon points to put into the new zones, because now my lock speed bonus is just... it's just gone. Like, those points are gone. It doesn't help me.
You could even, like, have it be something that actually breaks the game for specific content. You could even say, like, okay, in Paragon levels, in Heavens on High, and all these other contents, like whatever, that's not a part of the main raiding scene, as long as you don't mess with that, I think you'd be golden. To where you could use those Paragon points to say, like, yeah, you actually get more potency on this, or you to where only in that specific content would it actually be taken advantage of, and elsewhere it really doesn't apply whatsoever. Thus, thus again, more reason that, oh, like, yeah, I've got this, and But then, just like with anything, like it would have to be completely separate from kind of the concept of the game. You break
I feel like that would work for a lot of things too. Like, I feel like they should give us like more time sprinting or something like that.
Exactly. Reduce teleport cost to a specific Aetherite. There's so many little quality of life things that they could do.
More favorite destinations. Upgrades beyond favorite destination. So can I make it like a super favorite? And just give me it doesn't matter.
And then every time you use that point, just like Chris said, like the cost to do that again at that spot, like starts to increase and starts to increase and starts. So it's like, well, I could go and get another point to thus, increase my or reduce my teleportation cost or increase my sprint in this zone. But that's going to take 50 of these points now. I could just apply it to these other ones that are 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So essentially, like, at some point, it's like, okay, yeah, you're not really doing that.
You want to spend 1,000 hours so that all of your teleports in only Thanalan are free? That's fine. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
like
that's your time.
That's your fine.
Time. But then Fate,
those teleports are already all like under 200 gil. Like
every little thing that you do, that XP has some form of progression and value that you, the player, are setting for yourself. You're making your own goals at that side.
Absolutely.
So Angor is saying you do realize this will cause more burnout. I actually don't think it would cause at all any burnout. I think that
you don't have to.
You're talking about a specific player. Like it has nothing to do with.
Yeah, the reason I get burned out in this game isn't because I play too much. It's because the things that are remaining for me to do in game are not worth playing as opposed to doing something else. Like when I sit down with my free time in the evening, I say, would I rather watch Netflix or would I rather play 14? And I look at, well, what's going on in 14 right now? And if there's nothing that just grabs me, then I'll watch Netflix. And so it doesn't really matter whether I have the game fully cleared or not. It's whether or not there's something I want to do. Yeah. That's what
it would lead to burnout if you literally needed it to progress. Like if you needed it to be a part of like a raid group or whatever, then people would be stressed, and that would make it harder for new players. One of the things that 14
you can't clear MSQ until you're Paragon 900. Oh, well,
right.
Awesome.
That would be horrible.
Quitting.
That'd be the worst. Yeah, and the people wouldn't. It would de-incentivize new players. You have to find a way to have it rewarding, at the same time have it not have any real overall impact on your game, and that's all the content that the game is designed around. So it ends up just becoming this little thank you, this little like tip of the hat, to you, the player, who, you did those fates and you got this bonus, and it basically keeps content not 100% relevant, but it doesn't go down to 0% relevance when you don't need it. When I'm running around the world and I see a fate and it's like, well, there's a fate over there, I have no reason to go do it. As opposed to like, well, I'm kind of waiting around until this queue pops. I might as well go do that fate.
I might as well fish or desynth or go do maps until my static gets online.
Well, in that case, Brian and Chris, why don't you think that getting people into different forms of content isn't just like, that's also, I think you could, like, if you don't have any more things that you would find interesting to do, you could just try to get yourself in some PvP or go mess around with.
I'd be fine with PvP if I didn't have a 30-minute queue time.
Oh, what time?
It is why they add those.
A specific time and a specific day for your specific data center. I can tell you which. Actually, there's a season coming right up on when the DC data center split comes.
Yeah.
You can absolutely. It's why they add that other content. Is they're trying to add more reasons to play.
Why is that being organized outside of the game? The fact that
because of it's specifically a low population to begin with, and as far as the feedback goes, to make sure that doesn't happen to begin with, there have been forums, topics created on the official forums. In fact, one member of the North American community team and another member of the European community team is in the Wolf Pub's den. They play with all the rest of the other people in the PvP community, and that's like having a direct line, more or less, to, because they're the ones who collect that feedback on the forum. So I don't know why certain incentives that have been like suggested, like reusing the old limited glamour rewards like from different seasons haven't been implemented yet. It's just I don't know. It's all up on the devs at this point.
Simple answer is Mog Station. They want money.
No, I don't think it's necessarily like, because that kind of implies that it's greed. It's just a matter that, like, they have, what are they focusing in on? And that's where it's like, okay, let's say I'm so glad they're not doing it now, but let's say they added a new PvP mode. Then they're taking that population and dividing it even further. I think essentially the game needs to make that more present and known. And you know what could do that? Some kind of calendar system with both in the free company would be hugely acceptable, or within the game itself. Because okay, great. Why? Okay, so they're organizing it. They've got a schedule. It's a part of this Discord, aka it's happening outside of the game, aka unless you're like, okay, well, I'm queuing up for PvP. It's telling me 60 minutes. I guess nobody PvPs in this game. That's okay. Do. As opposed to saying like, hey, it's, you know, why is that something that cannot be scheduled within the game, that all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, by the way, here's this event. Almost like a world fate, really. Like, and it's going on, and it's
multi-queue would help.
You know, a multi-queue, or having the
Mystic, yeah, multi-queue would help. And if you could keep that queue active while you cleared content.
Like, needed. Like, hey, did you know if you queued as a healer for PvP, you'd have that's in demand right now? That's what's missing.
Oh, people do that anyways. They just
they check.
They check. It's just, you know, they rainbow and see, and they talk in the wing shells. Oh, the queue needs this.
Well, and if it's 60 minutes, how come I can't go? I don't know. Like, is there still a guild hest check section on things?
What kind of do you like?
So how come I can't just go clear like guild hests on my low level characters? Right? I'm doing instanced content while I wait. So because the guild hest is definitely over in time. So like as now if my PvP pops and I'm in a thing, then just re-queue me for PvP and that timer starts all over. I just missed that round. But as long as I get out before it pops, what's the problem? Like if I want to go run, okay, I see that I've got 15 minutes left.
What frustrated me about Eureka being instance content is it wouldn't let, because it's like, oh, I could be grinding in Eureka while I'm waiting in queue for this. Perfect. No. Let's go and do it. Nope, can't do that.
And like Eureka specifically, if PvP pops, tell me. Like I will back out of Eureka immediately. I'm only in there because you chose to make the relic grind instanced.
Well, the thing with doing some of that stuff, like especially guild hests and things, is if they gave that option in a guild hest or a dungeon or something like that, and you chose to go and jump and do a PvP run or whatever, you now they gotta rework their system then for jumping out of other duties. Which
oh no, I don't think they give you the option. I think it auto declines. I think it auto declines. You don't even see it pop. So when you queue for the guild hest, like you're taking the risk. It says if your turn in PvP comes up while you're in here, you will be auto declined and re-enrolled. So you look at, it's like, okay, I'm at 37 minutes of an estimated 45. I'm not going to queue for another guild hest. But now...
But then does that really solve the problem then? Because then you
yeah, because for the first 37, I got to run...
But then you just decide, okay, fine. If there's a chance that it'll pop while I'm doing that, I might as well just sit here and wait and do nothing. Seeing how I can't do anything, or go run fates or something in the...
I would leave PvP and PQ on all the time. Literally all the time. I would just leave it on. And then... anytime I'm not in instance content.
Oh, good night, dude.
So, I mean, it would help me, but maybe it's not a solution.
More open world content also then does that, regardless, like, within the existing framework. Because, like, from a technological perspective, I think that would be something that would be very foundationally difficult to pull off, just development-wise. Could be completely wrong. But I'm like, man, that would require all these additional subsystems that might not exist. Not impossible, just like, doesn't make more sense. But if they incentivize more open world stuff, even if dueling had, you know, there was like some incentive, some kind of stats, some kind of whatever, so that if we're like, hey, we're in queue, cool, and now we're all just kind of making our own PvP game out in the open world while we wait for this, you know, whatever to pop. You know, I see the best driven solution is empowering the players to make fun within the sandbox and the tool set that exists. Now that is, like I said it earlier on the stream, the best example of what we have right now is roleplay. Roleplay is a sandbox type element, meaning that it's different, it's player generated, and that kind of content will be content that people can that will make faster than devs can ever make any other content, faster than they can make a new raid, faster than the next ultimate. How do we play with that? And that's where I hope the game goes.
Story Plus helps.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say that they help facilitate that stuff though, and not just leave it 100% up to the people. You got nothing there, and now you got to make up something without a system even in place to be able to do anything. Such as
it depends. Like some things don't need systems, but if they don't have incentive, then eventually it's like you don't want them to go spend development resources on something that nobody ever does.
It's why I asked for the Savage Plus, because it's all centered on resources that they already have, and so the ideas aren't new, and so now they get to just work through the technical hurdles. So you can literally say, I want these things, so like they're not inventing new ideas and new technical systems, it's just a question of why Deep Dungeon doesn't work in dungeons. And I'm sure there's a lot of technical reasons, and that's what they get to work on now. So like hopefully with the suggestions they go for the path of least resistance. If there's stuff in the game that already works one way and a lateral step to the left would fix it, I would focus on that first instead of like, oh, let's go do this whole new thing. Like I hope they add support jobs to the battle system. It's like, well, that's a huge undertaking.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, that would be cool, especially with like an extra layer to the raids that are just a sidestep.
What's up,
Baron? You can just ask. You got classes here. I'm on my warrior right now, and what's the ability called? Interject, and it silences targets. Well, there's nothing in raids that really require you to silence a target. So
there has been, like in the original Binding
that
Foil.
Was back in 2.0. Yeah. That was 2 raids series ago, though. But you haven't had that for what now? 4 years to have to worry about anything like that. But you still have an ability that completely is a waste of space that you don't ever really use except for special occasions in a dungeon, maybe, or if you.
I honestly didn't see any point in removing it from like skills they were already on to be. I didn't see the point of making them separate skills, the way they do it now. They should have just kept them on the job.
We'll probably see a skill crunch with Shadowbringers anyway, because 4.3 or 4.4, when they basically gave us all the cross-roll abilities, man, it killed my hotbars. So Beerfax is saying, I've been playing Mage and Tank and WoW, and I'd like to do a melee DPS to change it up a bit. If you've enjoyed Mage and tanking, I might turn you on to Archer Bard right now, because it is a physical. You're not up close and personal, so you have a little bit of movement. Yeah, so you have a lot of movement there. That could be interesting. Mage. If you, well, he's saying a melee, so I was trying to think. Samurai would be fantastic, but you can't start a samurai. Dragoon, a lot of people like Dragoon as a kind of a melee DPS.
Go Nin.
Yeah, I would. I
can never do wrong.
Go ahead.
I wouldn't.
Go Nin. Nin's in a pretty good shape.
Okay, that's a great point. Ninja, which is starts at Rogue at level 10. You have to unlock the class system so you can pick Rogue, and then you can start working on Ninja.
I would almost recommend either Dragoon or Monk. I wouldn't recommend.
I can't personally recommend Monk, but that could change here.
The reason why I say that is they got a lot of stuff. They are early on, and they're still good usable classes for almost just about anything. And
the thing is, though,
constantly change, and I think I haven't gotten a chance to play 70 Monk yet, so I can't tell you whether or not they're in a good place or not.
I did not like, but I don't really personally like melee DPS. I'm a caster and a tank, so that's like I like Arcanist, Summoner, Scholar a lot, and so that would be if you get the 2 for 1. Get 2 for 1.
Thing is, I feel like Dragoon and Monk are more overwhelming for somebody just starting out.
At level 50, I would say, yeah. Like after level 50, like 60 rotation, 70. Yeah.
Compared to some of the other jobs where it's just simple, keep pressing like 1, 2, 3, and a few.
But if you're coming from WoW, there is something nice about the more, I guess, overwhelming jobs, because like you already have that familiarity with. If you've already made it to endgame in another game, then actually the beginning of the game can be really boring in any new game. Like if you came from Final Fantasy at level cap and then you went over to WoW, level 1 to 60 would suck.
The biggest challenge for I think WoW players would be, hey Sev, the biggest challenge for WoW players is to get to 50, because that's when the game really opens up. And prior to that, it really feels slower. You don't have your off the global cooldowns. You don't have your full real level 50 kit and below. So that's a big difference. And so BeerFax just said they just hit level 30. Maybe they'll go rolling a ninja. And my advice is actually, I don't know what you're playing right now, BeerFax, but get to 50 before you even think about it.
I'm good, Varen.
Because you can end up getting stuck in the 1 to 30 or 1 to 40 grind, and it can be soul crushing. And that's where, like, as a part of our guides, our first tip is get to cap. But if you can't get to 70 cap, get to 50, because then all of a sudden a whole world of content opens up, gives you a lot of variety, so you end up not feeling stuck in some kind of zone. So he says he's been playing WoW since 2005 and at Pally, but he doesn't. Oh, goodness gracious! He doesn't know the mechanics well enough to tank, and yeah, the GCs kill me in the early game. Yeah, it's pretty rough. I would say Pally really opens up at 50, but Warrior's a really good tank in the game.
Yeah,
I really like Warrior. But I came from Guardian tanking, so.
My concern though is that he's already level 30, and you get that experience boost, etc. That it's like my personal thing is like get to 50 with Paladin and kind of see how it feels, because you could really fall in love with it. I didn't fall in love with Paladin until like level 42, like where I was like, oh, okay, this is fantastic. And I think 50, I was like, it kind of all really came together. But at the end of the day, like my concern is that players get caught in that level 30 to level 40 zone, in which that by that time they're like, oh, maybe I'll go check another character. Okay, maybe I'll go try, another, play another job class, etc. And then eventually they're like, well, I've been playing the game for 120 hours and I've never gotten to level, 45. And it's like, yeah, the game is pretty slow. It's pretty methodical, especially in that range, and it really becomes a whole different beast at level 50. That's what I would default to, Beer. It's like I would definitely go check out another class, but if you're at 30, man, just push that story and open it up.
I would say cap at least Paladin first, because honestly, after 30, Paladin isn't the same as Gladiator anyway, so it's playing a different job. Yeah, in a sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you might as well just push it through and then decide whatever you want, because at least you'll have options.
When is Deep Dungeon available?
At level 17.
Super early, but on your first class, you always want to just finish the story. Just finish the story. MSQ.
Well, the only reason why I can say I would recommend also diving into Deep Dungeon a little bit. That way, because you level up so quickly, so you get availability to all of your abilities at level 50 without even actually being level 50 in the normal server. So it gives you the ability to kind of play around with some of the level 50 abilities and see even like this class at a higher level. And then
here's what I would say about that though. I would say push the story first, because it's better to get that XP and not have to worry about leveling off of Deep Dungeon and do that on your second job where it doesn't even matter really.
I understand that, but I'm just going more of trying to, if you're just in that situation where you're trying to figure out what class to play, Deep Dungeon, specifically Palace of the Dead, is a very good way to really kind of play around with different classes and see which one kind of fits your kind of style. And then when you finally figure out which one kind of fits your style, then go back and finish off the story. And then now you can go from 50 to 60 and then 60 to 61. Then you can continue to make sure, is this a class you still want to keep playing as when you go play Heaven on High? And if so, finish it up to 70. That way you're not wasting all your time, all these story mission XP, because the story quest XP is insane, and will, especially in Stormblood, will take you from level 60 to almost level 70, give or take a level or two. So you don't really want to waste all that story XP on a class that you have now leveled up to 70, and you don't ever want to touch this class ever again. Now you got to go from ground zero again and bring a class all the way up to level 70, minus the extra added on classes from the expansion. So you got Samurai, you have Astro, you have those other various classes, and it kind of, those ones, they start at a lower level.
That is true. Scratch what I said. Do what he said.
You have to start.
Go try all your classes. Unlock everything. Go try them all in Deep Dungeon, and then do whatever you want.
It's just a way to really kind of play around with things. That's my biggest recommendation. And
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I forgot about.
I really love Deep Dungeon for that factor, and everybody's like, "Oh, Deep Dungeon doesn't teach you anything or give you the ability."
It doesn't teach you, but it gives you a taste.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a chance to really kind of get to know some of this stuff, and is this something that you really want to do? That's why, like, for me, I hated Astro at the beginning. Then I started doing Deep Dungeon a little bit and got up to 50, and I got to experience some of the skills, and I'm like, this class is OP. Like, hey, I gotta level this.
Overrun this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You're right, because I've been on cap for the longest time, and I haven't played that stuff in so.
So Sevo cheered. Looks like he cheered 200 bits, but it didn't even come through. So it was just, oh my gosh, Beer Facts. Welcome to the workforce. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button over on Twitch. Becoming a premium member. Really appreciate the support.
Though I do
to the workforce, you awesome individual.
What's up, Jake?
But yeah, like the live bits, whatever, it didn't even update the header bar there, so I don't know. He's doing it again. 100 bits. Thanks, man. That's all I can say, because I don't know why it's not. It's giving you the bit notification too, so I don't know what. It's not even updated. Stupid freaking Twitch, man. Anyway. Well, because it's supposed to show his name up there. Like we have it, like, and now it's just like, all right, nope, fine. Does it have you at least in the cheerleading spot? I have to look.
I do wish for a Deep Dungeon they add something else other than making it like 100% a dungeon kind of style, and do like maybe like a trial thing and something specific for Deep Dungeon. That way it gives us just like a way to continue doing Deep Dungeon without a reason to keep going back and doing it, especially like going back and doing Palace of Dead even after you get all your classes up to 70.
You know what they should do? They should do the whole coil style back in Deep.
Which coil style?
The first coils where they actually had ads and then mini bosses.
Yeah, that's the Omega felt more like a trial thing than it was a raid.
I honestly, I hated all those things because, I mean, granted, it was great in like Alexander where you had Faust, so it was a good way to figure out whether or not your group could actually clear the fight or not, especially in the first tier of Alexander, where if you couldn't even make it through Faust, you weren't even going to get close to making it through the actual raid because you just straight up didn't have the DPS. It was a good way to check, but at the same time, it was so freaking tedious in so many ways, in my opinion.
Oh man, I don't know. Like I missed it as a part of it. Like it's like, oh man, it's just like trials are that fight, but then the raid itself was like there is the mini boss and then the boss, and then it's like it kind of was like, yeah, this is what an 8-man dungeon is essentially.
Yeah, it just to me it doesn't feel like a raid anymore compared to coils where, like, yeah, there are trash mobs, there are mini bosses you have to get through and stuff, as opposed to now where it's like boss, and boss.
I mean, I guess if they do something kind of like Faust, where they do like a DPS checker to make sure your group is capable of doing it, as tedious as it is, I can be on board on it just for the fact that it actually has usefulness. But if they do a coil-like thing where you just have a bunch of trash mobs that add no real value to the entire thing, except
we have to define value though, because like from somebody who's experiencing it, it felt. Yeah, I guess the ball they have ads right in that one.
I would say crash mobs should be okay if they're part of the actual like mini bosses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that he is kind of right. Like I would like a DPS checker before the boss, something that'll like show you to get better before each boss.
Yeah. I hear you, man. All right. On that note, wow, we got 31 people here. Thanks over here on Twitch. Thank you guys so much.
You're level 65 and you're getting stuck. So from level 65 to 70, you can do Heaven on High. You could also do leaves. I don't think there aren't battle leaves in Stormblood, are there? Just crafting and gathering.
No, I know. It's like
yeah. You could do your daily hunts. That's a good way to get experience. You can do your beast tribes out in the world. That's a good daily check-in, and you get a mount if you keep showing up. So that's kind of neat. Heaven on High is the most efficient, but doing a round of beast tribes and doing like your Anata and then going and grabbing the hunts for the day can be like a nice way of keeping you from feeling like you're just grinding Heaven on High into the ground. And then picking up any quests you may have skipped on your main, because a lot of times we just do MSQ because that's enough to level us. And so, like, I know I have a handful of quests sitting in pretty much every zone in the game, so I could go see if any of those are my level range.
I would say on Beast Tribes, you should probably do the Heaven's Words ones too if you haven't done them, because they still give a pretty big chunk of...
Oh, you're about to raid our first.
Yeah, figured that'd be fun.
Is there going to be an update? I don't know if the servers will go down. I don't know. If the servers get
for
reset.
tonight, no, there's not an update.
It's just a hot, yeah.
The update is going to be whoa.
Oh, are you guys at Arthur's? Is that your first time being part of a raid? He has like some epic, crazy stuff that takes place on his.
Well, it went saying that we raid them for 24, but then it goes 24 million.
Yeah, he has a bunch of crazy animations that kick in when stuff happens.
He's got a lot of good stuff, yeah.
Yeah, he normally does.
Anyways, no, the 15 event just appears like how a seasonal event just appears, like the NPC appears.
That's pretty much what it's going to happen, because they're not going to have to do.
Just gonna pop in.
Well, no, it's not going to be.
I don't think anybody fake grinds anymore.
It's not going to be Noctis that's going to pop up in Limsa. It's going to be that news reporter lady.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking beacons. I'm going to do this this leave.
So I'm going to go try to find that spot.
That'll probably be the last thing I do for tonight. We'll do one more leave.
Oh, you logged off. Okay, I wasn't expecting you finishing today.
Oh, me? Yeah, I said I was.
I did hit level 70.
Says, come to bed, Brian. And I was like, okay.
I did hit level 70 on my botnest tonight, which I meant to do this week, so. And then I'm just knocking out.
I cannot wait to get this car.
Yes, I'm so excited for the car.
I finished
I'm going to look weird. I'm going to look weird when I'm driving that thing.
Yeah, dude.
What's going to be
about the Lala
the Lalafell?
Oh, it's going to be Old Daw. It's going to be in Old Daw. Oh, not Limsa. It's going to be in Old Daw.
Alright, guys, I'm out.
So how do you get the mount?
Yep, have a good
Everybody's ready to start that Uber Suvers.
The mount that's dropping for the event tomorrow? I think the event that's dropping with the event tomorrow is just going to be like 200k.
It's
MGP.
230k in total.
So I have like
200.
I have 280k.
And I think it was like 20k for the hair or something, and then 10k for something.
Oh, I gotta do some more farming.
So if you can log on tonight, going and doing the fashion report right now pays really well. I think they were saying Mithri had a video on it, and then there's usually a Reddit post somewhere on it. I don't usually do it.
I did some Lord of Verminion today to get some.
Just clearing your challenge log will honestly make you way more MGP than you need most weeks. If you just do it consistently week over week, you can make a ton. I don't know if you can make 200k in a week, but it's not for lack of trying. You probably can.
Let me look.
Hey, look.
I know you can make a lot.
You actually, by the looks of it, I saw it. Yes, you can.
Not to mention that the challenge log is giving you a reward on top of whatever MGP you get.
All right, calculate this: 1,000, 1,500, 5,000, 8,000.
Oh crap!
Oh yeah, you can make. It looks like you can make more than 200K a week.
Well, and I made 11K. I made 11K doing my my mini cacpot today. So like, if you're doing a mini cacpot 7 days a week.
Oh yeah, I did. Only thing I did so far is just Lord of Verminion, and then I did 3 mini games and win the 100 day. Oh, I still have to do the gates, Chocobo Racing, Triple Triad.
See you, Chris. Thanks for hanging out.
And Dorman and
what crafter do I recommend?
Mahjong, the Mahjong, which I still never understood.
So. The crafters you recommend, so leveling crafting, honestly the crafting system is pretty similar across the board. The one that is the outlier is probably Culinarian. It depends on what your goal is. If your goal is just to try crafting, I would probably, I think Culinarian's the most like fun in my mind. There's definitely an optimal method with the cross-class skills and all that, but if you're just trying to pick one to just try the system out, it's also one that provides a lot of value throughout an expansion because it makes all the raid consumables. And then but that and Alchemist, so those are the 2 consumables. If you're gonna level several, then but not all of them, you're like, oh, I'd be willing to do 2 or 3. I would focus on picking ones that repair. So if you're playing Red Mage Scholar, I would probably do Weaver, just because then you can kind of repair a big chunk of your own gear. But a lot of that's also based on like your own server prices. So the cheapest ways to level are to do like your Grand Company turn-ins and leaves, if people are selling the things for leaves really cheap. And so that'll vary per server on like where the market has crashed. So if for some reason there's some like not very bright person goldsmith on your server that's just like dropping, you know, things at below the leave cost, then you can actually make money leveling goldsmith, in which case, yeah, do that. So I know it's not like a direct answer, but I would probably pick, if I was just trying it out, I'd probably pick Culinarian or Alchemist. Just because I think that they're the most exciting, where there's a lot of ingredients, there's a lot going on, and a lot of it carries value.
Yeah, that's probably the big thing for me, is they carry a lot of value. You can use them for raid.
Well, that's the thing. So. Pots and food are always going to be a thing versus some of the...
But if you only level the one, you're going to be way behind other Culinarians, because like the cross-class skills from having all of them leveled are ridiculous. Like they just have all these ridiculous skills that you can do.
Yeah, she's going to be dropping right here, and everybody's going to be swarming this place.
I mean, I guess it really kind of depends on what you want to do. Crafting's great, really, depending on what kind of market you.
But if you already have botanist and finisher done, you could also just go grab miner. But
and also if you're able to have the patience, because I think some of that stuff you gotta have some patience on doing too, right?
Definitely.
I think Culinarian's just really easy to just do leave turn-ins just over and over. There's always somebody selling that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they're selling it for a lot of times they're selling it for less than the material cost, so you can't beat their prices.
Not to mention, there's like a million NPCs that sell food that you can just buy cheap and make.
Yeah, the first like 15 levels of any crafter is basically free, because the vendor right next to the guy will sell everything you need. And a lot of times you could take those exact ingredients and you could go sell those ingredients for a profit on the market board.
Because people will just buy them, because especially if you can manage to make them high quality, people will go buy them for.
No, I'm saying you can buy the normal quality ones off the vendor and make money.
Oh yeah, well.
Just straight up, just pick it up off the vendor, carry it to the summoning bell, and that's a profit.
Yep.
Not for every item in the game, but it's in the tooltip. The vendor buy price is in the tooltip.
That's the thing. People don't ever read.
Oh, people are just lazy. I love lazy people too. Because
I mean, it doesn't tell them where to buy it. So there's some people who are like, it's going for 11K. I could buy it for 9K. I don't care. Like, keep the money.
Still, but like when you got things like glamour prisms and things like that you're gonna buy like continuously throughout your entire life of your game, and you can easily go buy them for a couple hundred gil, and instead you go buy them off the market board for like 10K or more, Like there was a point where all I did was sell those because people just would go buy them for a hugely inflated price.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I would do
like
the same.
500 gil or something like that. Like, and all I did was I went and did that, and that was it. And then now that I think they put them in as a Grand Company item, so you can go use all this extra gear that you gathered from dungeons, and then just go get Grand Company seals, buy your glamour prisms, and you're good to go. Like, there's so many ways to make gil, and it's
yeah. So the high quality is double the experience. So if you're just trying to be efficient, that's your price point. So if the item is 100 gil, when it's 190 gil for the high quality, buy the high quality. If you're running low on leaves, then the high quality sometimes can be worth more than twice the price to you but most people sit at 99 leaves the vast majority of days that they have an active subscription. They just don't use them. It's why, you guys just saw me do I just did some big leaves because I know I'm not going to play that much on my gatherers this week, and that's all I'm using leaves for. So I just did big leaves to kind of crank back a few because they're just going to regenerate.
I think it takes like 3 days to fully
yeah, but if you're not doing 99 leave quests every 3 days, then, right. I only play a couple days a week. So a lot of times, like, my leaves just sit at cap by the very nature of it.
I'm not gonna lie. When I leveled crafters, I used all my 99 every single time.
That's
because
awesome.
I wanted to get them.
It's awesome. It's what Brian does. So he lets them get all the way to 99, and every time they're exactly at 99, he logs in and he dumps all 99 in one sitting.
I couldn't do it. Too much grinding for me.
Which, that's definitely a method.
Have a good night. I was going to come in because I saw y'all were chatting. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out.
I want to get the regalia.
I'm going to turn this quest in, and as soon as this quest ends, I'm going to end up wrapping up as well.
I would have...
You guys decided for the regalia?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted just for anesthetics. Like,
I'm ready to start an Uber service in Eureka.
I'll have somebody take me around and get me all of my the waypoint.
Next quest is 53
for flying in all of the Stormblood locations. I've been extremely lazy on that stuff.
Dean, that is one of the best things about, like, if you have a crafter, like, leveling up your friend's crafters becomes really easy. Like, you can literally make leveling packs for them because you getting high quality with the ingredients is super easy. And it would be nice if they got the crafting experience, but, like, honestly, you just, like, instant high qualitying all of them is worth way more. And so especially for, like, players that's like, oh, I have all my crafters at cap, and so, like, I have a lot of money. In that case, a lot of times you'll hear people like, oh yeah, I even just gave my friend all the leveling packs. I didn't even charge him for the materials. And then that person's like, oh, I just logged in, got all these items from you, and instantly hit cap. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I almost hit 52 on Miner. So I hit 70, and I finished up my botanist quests. So that is my second gatherer of 3, and then I am 51 on my Miner. I leveled them all to 50 back in ARR, and then I just never touched them again. So it's been nice to have them at cap. I did Fisher right when Stormblood dropped, and then I haven't.
I'm not gonna lie. When I decided that I finally needed to level them, all I did was I just did the daily turn-ins every. I didn't even touch them.
If nothing else, doing your I didn't do any of mine today. Here, I'll go show that. So, because that'll hit me 52. So if you go to, I'll show this as just one last thing for any of you looking for the easiest experience ever. If you go to duty timers, mine's bound to control you, but duty timers, this very top thing, the next mission allowance, and that emblem tells you mine's in Gridania because I'm an adder. These supply and provisioning missions are wonderful. So we're looking for Dragon Obsidian, and we have 11 in my inventory, but it needs 10. But say we didn't, I can. So I don't have any high quality. So let's go see what the price of that is. Whittle me. Thank you so much for the $20. No problem. One last tip here. Okay, so it's 2,000 gil for 10, but it's only 90 each for that.
Thanks for the stream.
Like, I definitely wouldn't buy high quality in this standpoint. I would just buy normal. I already have 11 in my inventory, so it's no big deal. Make sure that's actually my inventory and it's not like reading a retainer. I don't think it checks that. There it is, Dragon Obsidian. And then you just go turn that in. So we're going to hop over to Gridania. This could not be simpler. And then this will push me to 52 for the night, and then I'll really call it a night. My wife's plane should have just landed, and she parked at the airport because it was a work trip, so they pay for her to do that. So she'll be home in like 20 minutes. So I was going to go unload the dishwasher and get the dog outside so that he's gone to the bathroom so he can hang out with her right when she gets in the door. Chuck's right at that age where he kind of pees when he gets too excited, so I'm just going to go get him outside so that he's cleared out when she comes home because she's been on a work trip and I know he'll be excited to see her. So you go to whatever city it is and your grand company turn in. It is so easy, and you do this every day. And so like a lot of times what I'll do is like if I have more time, I'll sit there and I'll sit and just shop the market board, and I'll shop for all of these, and any of them that are affordable that I don't have level 70, I will just go ahead and buy anything. But if they're too expensive, just wait for tomorrow. It's no big deal because you get this every day. And so supply is all my crafting things. I don't have any of those items on me. Provisioning. Oh, there's my Dragon Obsidian. Awesome. It asked me for it. Hand over 10. You can't mix and match, so the fact that I have one high quality doesn't help me. I'm going to go ahead and get some Grand Company seals, which I can spend on either venture coins, which is a wonderful way to make money. Ding, 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 level 52. Or I can spend on these commercial survival manuals, which complement the, the commercial ones complement the company issue ones. The company issue ones you get from squadrons. They share a cooldown, so there's no reason to have both, but like I can basically buy faster leveling for when I actually am mining. So you'll see I have buffs up there. So I have the level 2 buff, the level 1 buff, the food buff, and my free company buff. And so that allows you to kind of buy that level 2 buff. Cool. Good night, all. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks for all of those of you in chat. Good to chat with everybody. See you guys next Monday, maybe sooner.